his stuff. So and then like I've been listening to I've been on a huge Wu-Tang Clan kick lately.
Oh, nice.
I've just been listening to.
Nice.
And you're East Coast, right? Like I've kind of pinned it down. So East Coast, best coast, like actually for really real. Sorry, West Coast, suck it. But no, like but I've been listening to a shit ton of Wu-Tang Clan because they're just so good for hobbying to. I can't get enough of it. Like every time, like because it's got that like the lyrically, it's usually really, dare I say, sophisticated. But like if you listen on just a surface level, you're still like, oh yeah, this is good. Like I really pay attention to music when I listen to it. Like I'm one of those people who will just put on headphones and sit down and listen to music. I'm one of those weirdos.
Right.
And so like the music can't be too good or I get distracted when I'm doing stuff. But Wu-Tang Clan is a high quality of music that like allows me to like kind of like become zen like. It's just I don't like it's like if I start listening to like Tool, I'll stop painting and just start listening to Tool. Like even though they're also kind of fun, complicated, and zen-y for me, but it's like, but yeah, I don't know, man. It's So what do you listen to? I guess while we're on.
I listen to a lot of rap, and I'm pleased that you brought up Wu-Tang. So the thing about Wu-Tang that I really like is when you're trying to achieve something, when you're trying to achieve like the flow state yourself, when you're painting or gaming or whatever, and you're trying to hit that flow state.
I like that.
When you're listening to them, they're in a flow state.
Yeah.
Their stuff is coming out effortlessly, and I feel like that's why it's so easy to groove with them because like they're not. It doesn't sound like they're trying that hard. Obviously, they try hard, but
yeah.
It doesn't sound like it.
The RZA is an amazing producer. Like he's just like, he's on the like he really knows what's going on.
And they've just got lines that just crack me up every time I hear them, and they're a great package.
Yeah. It's perfect because like again they've got that like 3 dimensions to them where like you can listen to it on the surface level, then you can engage with it and get that deeper like the next level, and then musically there's always again it's the flow zone. Like there's just or the what would you call it, the
flow state.
The flow state. I like that better.
Yeah.
Like they're just in the flow state. So all right. Welcome everybody. This is RantCast, the AOS show dedicated to the adjacent topics to AOS. Obsessed with him, one might say. I am Magical Mr. Mephisto, the man with every opinion unlocked. With me tonight is Davis Ford, the genius behind AOS Reminders. How are you doing tonight, Davis?
I'm doing pretty well, man. I'm pumped to be here. I'm glad we could put this together.
Yeah, you've actually like I consider you part of Chat Gang, by the way. Like,
well, I'm glad I've graduated.
So like you've now like ascended, and only one before you have done has accomplished such a task. So
I don't know if I can fill in for Frank, but I'm pretty honored to be here regardless.
Right on. And we were like if you caught the sort of pre-show there, we were talking about like Wu-Tang Clan and music and stuff. Chat Gang is actually inspired by Wu-Tang, like Chat Gang. Wu-Tang. It's a slant rhyme. So that's why Chat Gang is Chat Gang. And theoretically, like, it's one of the greatest things about the Wu-Tang Clan, and we're starting out with a rabbit hole immediately. One of the greatest things about the Wu-Tang Clan is the production, the persona, like everything that goes into it. Like they weren't like, the RZA is as much a character as it is, his like they all have stage names. When you join Wu-Tang Clan, right, you gotta have that stage name. And so like I'm all about that. It's like it doesn't get better than like the having personas and stuff like that. So I really enjoy that stuff in Age of Sigmar, but also I'm a big like rules, interactions, and information nerd, and that's where I think something like AOS Reminders is just really awesome. So you did this a while. Ty turned me onto it a while ago.
Nice.
It was, if you don't mind, my genesis story of how I discovered AOS Reminders, and then you tell me how you kind of came up with making it, and we'll
go for it.
All right, so I actually was at Midwest Meltdown last year. I ended up playing Brad Schwant. Schwant? I'm always bad with those German names. Relian on Twitter in round 2 after grudging Ty. And so like I don't know if you were on his podcast there talking about AOS Reminders, so you may know a thing or two about him, but he's kind of a famous if you grudge Ty you will be drinking, and and beer was had. So like I go and play like one of the monsters of the Midwest, like already like kind of buzzing pretty well. But one thing that Brad brought to the table was actually this laminated cheat sheet. Now it wasn't AOS Reminders, but that really got my head thinking this would be awesome to see this, because like he had it like laminated. He had brought a dry erase. He wrote like my abilities down on it, and it like just he played very efficiently. I mean, he's already a great gamer, but like to see him sort of like to see one of the best in the world kind of have a cheat sheet made me feel more secure about my own play, and like giving myself mental reminders, like a playing aid. Tape measures are obviously necessary, but a wound tracker, like these are things that are helping us give ourselves mental cues, little cheats for the game that help us like take some of the stress off of our mental game, off of having to think about it all the time, so that we can just play. And the more that stuff I think you can have in a productive manner, the better. Because I do think there are some player aids that can be distracting. But
yeah, but it's like if you're a football coach, you don't practice your plays all week and then go out there without a playbook. You still have reminders for yourself on the sideline of like, this is what we want to execute. And actually, so not to interrupt your Genesis story.
No, go on.
But when I first put this out there, and actually to this day, some people will say, hey, you know, like, man, you totally got to use AOS Reminders. And there'll be like some weird backlash because people will be like, well, I already know my abilities. Mm-hmm. I don't need this. Mm-hmm. It's just like, yeah, obviously you know them. Like, we all play our armies. Right. But just have this thing like, I don't know. That's always been a weird thing for me. So it's nice to hear it described as a gaming aid, because that was the intent of it.
Yeah, like I've seen the backlash too, and every time they're like you know, someone pumps it or like you make a reminder, there's always gonna be that like negative voice kind of show up, right? Like, so you got to filter. Sometimes there's some constructive criticism in the negative, but like you kind of got to filter that stuff. No, but anyway, like I saw one of the best players in the world using this thing, and then I'm like, man, that's a cheat sheet. And then there was a conversation on Twitter about him. I became a huge proponent early, and then basically the very next tournament, NashCon, I'm playing Ty, and he's got his AOS Reminders cheat sheet. He's like, oh yeah, dude. Like, and here I had my like plebeian one I self-typed up sitting in my binder. I think it's actually, I still got the file on my desktop called Death 1 cheat sheet and Death 2 cheat sheet. Like, and I'm like, man, that would just, it would be so much more convenient if this, like, if somebody in the world decided to make a program or a site that I could just, like, drag my army list over, and then boom, I've got my cheat sheet. And then you did it. Or rather, I assumed you clearly had it before I played Ty, but I'm like, man. So I guess the playbook is a fantastic point. I think like every NFL coach is sitting there with their laminated cards on the sideline too. The other part of this that I think is really worth mentioning, while we're kind of on that point of bringing it to a game and memorizing your rules before I get to your sort of side of the story here, is it's not, some playing aids aren't for you. It's to make the game experience better for both players at the table. So one of the things, like casting values. I mean, Nagash casts a lot of spells in a turn.
Yeah.
Your opponent's wondering if you got that spell cast off or not. Rather than having to go through my 5 books with all my rules, like I just turn the sheet around and they go, oh, right there, boom, written down. And especially with like now, as AOS Reminders becomes like established and trusted, they're going to go, oh, AOS Reminders is one we can, like, instead of my handwritten thing where I could be like, I could have just had a typo. 6 and 7, my fingers, I always fat fingered between 6 and 7 personally. Like, I know because I write a ton. Like, those are just two, like, I could have an honest mistake. And then, like, you have this print off that's just sort of like becoming part of the common parlance of our community. So that's how I kind of discovered this. I was like, as soon as Ty was like, AOS Reminders, dude, I'm like, this is the best thing ever. I started like twittering, talking about you. You sent me stickers. The next tournament I went to, all of them gone instantly. Like, it was just like, it's just been great. And now it's been, man, 7 months, 8 months since I went to Havoc, and it seems like that, like you've done the tours, you've gone on Playing and Slaying podcast with Ty. I saw you were on AOS Coaches Show, really doing some deep dives on some stats. Great shows. And now you're on the Mecca. This is it. This is the Super Bowl.
I made it, man. I'm here. I'm retiring after this.
This is the walk off home run. No, so how did you come up with AOS Reminders, in case people maybe haven't heard, and what was your journey in kind of delivering that like?
So I was on Lustria Online, the Seraphon forum. I play Seraphon. Seraphon has a ton of stuff going on all the time. I was not good at it, to put it lightly. And so this guy posted, and he was like, "Hey man, does anyone here have a cheat sheet?" And someone posted theirs. It was like a Word document, and it had a lot of errors and stuff. And someone was like, "Oh, you know, it would be awesome if someone made a website that did this." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." So that got us to today, basically. You know, there's a lot of story in between now and then, but
right. So are you a programmer by trade? Or
yeah, I'm a software engineer at a bank, so I do this stuff every day. So it's nice. What's nice is AOS Reminders uses the same technology stack that I use at work a lot. So I viewed it as, you know, just developing my skill set. I did some things with Reminders that I'd always wanted to do at work. So that was really nice and convenient.
You know, it's funny because they tell us to like keep work out of the hobby and keep hobby out of work. But like with something like Age of Sigmar, like I can't not think about this game and all day long, and no matter what I'm doing, and that overlap with all the other parts of my life happens regardless. And then I accidentally make a show, and then you go on to make a program that's helped tons of people. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's been good for me, like developmentally. I've never launched something that had a subscription program before. Like I've never done a lot of the things that I've done with Reminders. And I pull, you know, we've got like 20 contributors. I get a lot of different ideas on things. And so the thing is, at work, people will sometimes give ideas and you're like, oh, well, that's out of scope, or we don't have sprints for that. We don't have time for that. And when it's like a hobby project, it's a lot harder to just flat out decline things. So a lot of features in there are like, someone just half-heartedly was like, you know, you should be able to do this. And I'd be like, okay. And then a couple of weeks later, I would do it. And so it's been really good for me to like stretch my capabilities as a programmer. It's just been really fulfilling the whole time.
That's awesome. AOS Coach here in chat actually says, bring your whole self to hobby and work. Your work skills are hobby skills and vice versa. So, I mean, I think that's really cool when you can take something you already do and build off that. Now, I had a time where I thought I was going to go into programming, and I know just enough to be dangerous with Google and an IIRC bot, but like that's about it. Shout outs to chat or Incantabot there in chat. That's an IIRC bot program that I wrote, or script rather, that I wrote. And then some person went out and then made a program that did what I had done, and then I just like, now I don't have to work hard anymore, and then I just ported in my settings into that bot. Being OnkBot actually, which then Streamlabs ended up taking over. So
nice.
I know just enough to know how much time goes into that. I mean, it took me weeks to just, you know, every now and then if you're sitting here in my Twitch chat, you'll see Incantabot will dance and stuff, and then like just say programmed messages. At the time I started Twitch, there was only Nightbot was really the only thing around, and Nightbot was not where it is right now. It didn't fulfill my needs because I just wanted this like a meme. I just wanted a meme generator in my chat.
Don't we all?
Yeah, and so like I went in, I looked you know, looked some stuff up. I had some Visi basic courses to kind of date myself a little bit. So I just like I said, just enough to be dangerous. It takes a lot of time. How many, and I know you're still going with this, but how many hours between you started AOS Reminders and when the site went live, do you think?
Oh, from when it first went live? Well, there's two stages of going live. So first was like the very early, very, very early version that went up on my personal blog. And that was up for like 2 months. And I think I wrote the first thing maybe in 10 10 hours total to get like, and that was just Seraphon. And then I added like 4 more armies, and then I realized, okay, you know, this doesn't need to be on my personal blog anymore. It's also impossible to tell. So like this shirt, I don't know if you can see it on camera.
I see it. I see it there. AOS Reminders. Yeah.
Yeah.
The little logo.
But the problem is, okay, davise4.com/AOS. That's a mouthful, man. It doesn't make sense to tell people. So I was going to Nova, and I printed these shirts out. And as soon as they arrived, I was like, that is a terrible URL. So I bought AOSReminders.com and moved it on over.
Right on.
And that was like the true launch. That was, we had most of the armies. We were getting ready for Nova. I was cramming in as many features. And as to your question about hours, like in total, I've probably spent at least over 500 hours. It feels like 1,000 hours. It's kind of hard to tell after a while. It's 7 months of consistent work.
Yeah. Yeah.
All my weekends, so it's been a while.
Yeah, yeah, and you're every time an FAQ comes out, you have to go back to AOS Reminders code essentially and update it.
Yeah, and actually, so you kind of brought that up earlier that people are starting to like AOS Reminders is a common thing. You'll see it at tables, and people rely on those values.
Yes.
So before, when I was doing it, it was kind of like a lark. It was like whatever, like you know, hopefully all the rules are right. But now I'm like, oh shit, people are using these at like, you know, GTs and like serious events. The rules better be right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so we're really serious about that.
Well, and that's the thing. Finish your point before I jump in here. But
no, it's just we feel like a serious responsibility of the community to make it right, because we know people are using this and only this. Like they're not going to cross-reference it with their book. They believe that we are correct, so we better be correct.
Heck, our books are often wrong. You know, like a couple weeks later, you get that like first FAQ afterwards, and sometimes errata immediately. You know, this is actually a pretty decent jump off point into the notion of parity. And and I forgot to tease it. I should have teased it earlier. Davis has actually been working on something else with Darren Watson. In the community there, the list whisperer himself. So we'll have we'll actually go through that a little bit later. But I want everyone to kind of keep in mind as we're going through this, thinking about this notion of parity. Parity, of course, meaning essentially a notion of equality and fair play in the context of gaming. It means equality and fair play. The NFL and the NBA all have a draft system. The reason they have a draft system in the NFL, in particular, worst teams record drafts has the hottest picks, is because they want to bring those low tier teams. See how much AOS it's on the brain. They want to bring those low tier teams back into the fold. Now, with a game as big as the NFL, like it doesn't mean like one draft pick is going to change the course of your season. There's tons of moving parts, but they're always chasing parity. There's a lot of rules set up to do stuff like that. Any meta in any game, whether it's Magic the Gathering, Age of Sigmar, or Street Fighter, tends to be chasing parity. Now, it doesn't mean they achieve it often. In fact, there are theories, I should say hypotheses, that believe that imbalance is what helps progress a meta more than equality. So, but the notion of parity, it just ties into fair play and making your games approachable, understandable, and relatable. So one of the things I think AOS Reminders is really good for is helping achieve parity. Now, you, dear listener or viewer, have obviously all your rules memorized, but the person at the table across from you may not have all your rules memorized. And you might actually, believe it or not, have some rules wrong in your memory. I messed up Graveguard a little while ago. I had Graveguard memorized for like 3 months, just playing them constantly. Stopped playing them for probably about 6 months. Their points went down in the next GHB, and oh man, it was more of a year timeline there between GHBs. Their points went down. I started using them again, and then I made that boneheaded call of being like, oh, I know how these work because I had them memorized before, and I got their exploding sixes wrong. So Oops. Like. Yeah, I know, and I played a whole game that way, and I actually ended up sending a message to my opponent, like after I realized I'd been playing it wrong, and being like, "Dude, I'm really sorry. Like, I've been fucking that up." Luckily, I mean, he won, so he wasn't salty about it. But like, he could have been. You know, if it come down to an exploding six to win the game, he's gonna go home. He's gonna tell all of his friends, I'm pretty much a fixture in the Midwest tournament scene. I'm gonna get a reputation for being a cheater. Like, you don't want any of that. You want this sort of common ground established, and something like AOS Reminders helps bring those players who do struggle with learning rules up a little bit to kind of be with the rest of it. It's like you get that first round pick in the draft, you know, like by having just your rules. So like, it's not going to mean you win the Super Bowl by getting the first round pick, but it's going to help you achieve some parity.
Yep.
So, when do you want to go into your hot reveal? Is now the time?
Let's talk about parity.
We need to build it a little bit more. Okay, let's build it up a bit more.
Yeah, let's talk about it a little more. So parity is really interesting in Age of Sigmar because other game systems, a lot of times they know that they're not going to get like a perfect balance, so they implement like pick and ban before the game, like Dota or League of Legends or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of the community being able to say, well, like, shit, that's broken. You know, don't let that in the game. But we don't have anything like that. I know that some TOs are starting to write their own packs with like custom rules, which is interesting.
That gets into the notion of comping, right? And
yeah.
I'm gonna say first hot take of the RantCast. I'm gonna say it right now. I'm not for TOs or comping. I don't. Self-comping, by all means. Okay, that's just how you write lists. I'm running Petragash instead of full-on Petrifex Elite because I think Nagash in Petrifex Elite is already comping the OBR army. Half my points are on one model. If you can't deal with one model, you probably deserve to lose. Like, one very awesome model, the best model in the game, but still. The reason I hold to that line, I'm against comping from a TO standpoint, saying you can't take this into the game, is because if it's printed and it's legal by this notion of rules we have, which is matched play, you should get to play with your toys. Like, I mean, just the simplest way of saying it, you should get to play with your toys. If you say Slaanesh is banned, there's that person out there who brings the 100 Fiend list, you know, like, and they don't even have a Keeper of Secret in sight. Like, is it a good list? Is that the list you want banned? Like, no. Do you want to ban the Vince Venturella from coming to your tournament with his favorite army, even if he does run the Keeper of Secrets? Do you want to start making distinctions based on, players who you know are going to use this army responsibly versus players who aren't going to use this thing responsibly? Like, I'm just against that. And
I agree. I'm against it too. One of the reasons is that when you get stats that are reported like LLVs, if you have tournaments in there that are banning certain rules or making modifications to the game, that data is now very suspect because if Slaanesh doesn't win a tournament because you nerfed their depravity or whatever as the TO, that gets into the official data set that LLV compiles, and it leads to the community maybe forming different prediction or different outlook on that tournament.
Yes.
The problem though is that the reason TOs are comping things and modifying rules is because Games Workshop is not exactly seen as responsive to these things, and that's on GW a little bit.
Right, and I think that's where egotistical talking heads like myself help. We're like, my job, I view as like, is to inform folks and not to tell you what to think, but how to think, and give you guys, if you're watching, you're listening, give you guys information so that you can formulate your opinions. Like, yeah, I have like my hard lines that I hold to, like Nagash is the best, but like, I encourage you to like tell me I'm wrong and come up with reasons why you think otherwise, and then we get to have a conversation, and it's fun as long as we all respect each other. So like, more information is preferable to less information, and you don't want to co-opt that information, like LLV stats, and you actually have been collecting some data here. Go ahead and open up my thing here. You've actually been collecting some data here with AOS Reminders, and so one of the ways you collect data is actually direct data collection, right? So someone uses it, and then they get direct information. Now, I have a curiosity. How do you know that this is not me and the 20 OBR lists I just made?
Well, the thing is, it totally could be. And before I dive into that, if you notice, it's labeled AOS Coach. This report is labeled AOS Coach.
Yeah.
AOS Coach has been doing... he's probably like, what are you doing sharing this? It's just for this show. Don't worry, Coach. he's been doing a fantastic job with these stats, and I've seen how on YouTube, like, he's reaching more casual players and informing them about what to take. So I'd just like to say, great job, coach. Really like it. You're doing a really good job. So how do I know it's not just you? Well,
yeah,
it could be.
I mean, I tell you, like, this OBR numbers, where do we come in here? I guarantee like 4% of that is me.
Yeah, so there's definitely some noise. So this is actually, so LLV compiles stats, for those who aren't familiar. LLV compiles stats based on tournament results, and some of the stats are self-reported. Some of them he actually gets from the TOs. Sometimes there's blank data, but he does a really good job of like compiling hindsight stats. You know, we're looking at games that have already occurred, and so there's less noise in those results because they happened and they're 99% factual. Some of them are self-reported, so there's a little wiggle room, but there's like no noise in those results. You do have some noise from inexperienced players who are taking Slanesh and losing with them, and that pushes the win rate down, but it all sort of evens out. There's noise in these results too. Like, there's a ton of Stormcast armies, but you don't see Stormcast showing up in tournaments as much, or performing that well in tournaments. Mm-hmm. And people like you, you're like a heavy user, and you're creating a lot of lists, and so there, maybe if you keep selecting Petrifex will go up. The thing is, there's a lot of people like you who are using the site a lot. And it's my belief that I think last month we collected something like, I don't know, like 200,000 different selections. Mm-hmm. So even if you were a lot of those, there's a lot of other ones. And I think that outweighs your individual impact.
Yeah, so my individual impact and you got to understand, my impact is immense because I'm that awesome.
Right.
But like, you know, for every one of me, like making 1,000 Osieric Bone Reapers lists, it's not 1,000, that's hyperbole. There's someone out there making 1,000 Mod Tribes lists or Skaven lists and stuff like that. People aren't like, people have some pretty common behaviors, right?
Yeah. And even if you're making, let's say you're making 50% of the OBR list, which you're not, but
I'm not.
Let's say you are.
No way.
if you keep selecting Petrifex Elite, that does suggest to me that like that's a solid choice. You haven't deviated from it. You found no reason to leave it. So even that's a horrible example, but like even that is some sort of information for people to use.
Yeah, I mean, and list scientists, as I've called them, is like the list scientists out there tend to be really. The reason they're making 100 lists is like really trying to tinker and get these like all these moving parts into one really awesome list, and then you take it out into the wild, be it a tournament, a game night, a club night, whatever you have at your local scene, to your friend's basement where you just like go into the lab and there's like Bunsen burners and stuff and you just like play games, whatever the case may be, and then these stats are valuable, essentially, is all I'm saying. And that the people who are grinding out a bunch of lists, they tend to be people trying to find the good list or the best lists. So, yeah. And then real quick, I didn't want to move past it here with AOS Coach there. He said the problem with Warhammer Fantasy Battle is it got to a point where winning a tournament wasn't about skill set. It was about who knew the rules best and setting up gotcha moments. A little bit of a retort here from Relian says... there's a difference between winning because of gotcha moments and winning because you prepare to know the rules better. Both do happen, but just putting it out there. So I actually really like Vince Venturella was on the show. Some like, I don't know, some guy you might have heard of from YouTube was on the show. And he said something that I thought was absolutely brilliant and just completely encapsulated that debate. He said that I want to win because of, it wasn't imbalanced. I want to win because like imbalanced strategy, not imbalanced knowledge. I think it was the take. It wasn't imbalanced, is a different word for that. Basically this notion that he wants to like beat you on the table, but he doesn't want to win because he got you with a rule. And part of this discussion of parity is the longer we spend with a game as a community, the more people talk about it on the internets. The more podcasts that come out, talking intelligently about this stuff, because there is some podcasts out there that get it wrong, but then you read the comment section, you hear that they've gotten it wrong. So even getting it wrong, like, can be a good thing. Like, Freud was wrong about most things, but he got a lot of other smarter people talking, and now we have, like, a fully developed field of psychology. The thing is the longer a game is around, the more responsible the community remains, the more that knowledge base will raise. The gotcha moments will decrease. Like Alpha Strike with Gav Bombs for like the casual player coming into AOS 2.0. And you gotta, we had a huge surge of players in that time span. Like you gotta look at it. Like a lot of the bad feels and some of the like negativity that cropped up, a lot of people came into this game. The money, just looking at the money, doubled for practically for AOS alone. Doubled. Now that doesn't mean double the players came in, but I would plant a flag, and I bet you pretty close to pretty close to doubled in terms of size. You can look at the tournaments, the number of people coming into the game at tournaments as a 2-0 versus 1-0 just dramatically increased. The average event going from like 30 people to 60 and up to 100. Midwest Meltdown, insane growth. Over 100, the biggest like independent like tournament in our region by far. Like that meant there was an ill-informed or uninformed sort of chunk of the fan base coming in. Well, now that chunk knows more about the game, right, than they did at that time period. And so the feels bads and of the gotcha moments is going to decrease. Gav Bomb was like terrifying to new players because things like just chaffing it or running away from it weren't like common in the stratagems that we talk about with each other on Twitter. You know, like it just wasn't there. As you build parity, as more people play the game and nerds like me seek to help them know more about the game, you're going to help make the game healthier. You're going to start to see that incongruence between knowledge shrink a little bit. Now, some people are just good with rules. Like I head for rules. I've got one. I know some of the best players out there have some, but I also know some of the best players out there are like, yeah, I'm not great at the rules. I just practice really hard. You know, you can be great at rules. If you're not reading the right rules, you'll get them wrong too, right? Like if you don't know that, like this, for instance, if you don't know that the Mortis Praetorians ability or not Mortis Praetorians, if you don't know Death Rider Wedge, the ability that Cavalos Death Riders got errated with one simple sentence change, you'll play it wrong if you play it out of the book, right?
Right.
So like I don't view these like reminders as bad, but it's just trying to like help bring that knowledge base up for everybody. So the gotcha moments are less. So because someone can't gotcha if you know what they're trying to do, you know. And even then, you can still have gotcha moments in tactics. I mean, that's how, that's how I stole the game 100% from Tom and Vince by throwing the table mechanic into my own guys so that they couldn't score the secondary objective because I'd killed them all. I killed my own guys. Like, it was a bit of a gotcha moment when they like saw the gears turn in my brain and the gears turn in their brain. They went, oh shit. You know, but it wasn't like you didn't know about the rules and I grew a mustache suddenly and I'm like twirling it. Like it wasn't that. Like they knew the rules just as well as I did with the pillar. They assassinated Haywo's a warlord turn 1 by flinging it into him. I just like decided to fling it into my own guys to deny secondary objective points. Like stuff like that is fun actually. And I think that like having a gotcha moment isn't in and of itself bad. It's really like in the, like kind of the, it's really how you approach it, right?
Yeah.
You know, like you're not going to know all my rules, and I'm going to do the best I can to let you know my rules when I walk up to the table. Like, but there's a difference between like, okay, Nagash is going to hand a dust to you. It's about, it's about a 40% chance, ha ha ha. And then like I get it off and like you die and you're like, God damn it, he said it was a 40% chance. God, and it happened 100%. In this game happened 100%, right? And he hinged his whole statistics. He hinged his whole strategy on that. Versus like, do you have any teleports in your army? No. And then suddenly it's turn 4, they teleport something with a spell. You're like, I asked you if you had any teleports in your army. You said, well, no, this technically wasn't a setup, or this wasn't a teleport, this was a redeployer. Whatever they do in their brain to go through those gymnastics to justify their gotcha, right?
Right. That's just lying at that point.
Well, yeah. Yeah. But I don't want to say we all, but many of us have experienced a moment like that. And that feels like crap, especially if, like, you lose because of it. Now, my reaction isn't as visceral. Mine is like, I should have known better. I always go inside. I just always internalize things like that. Like, I should have known better. I shouldn't have let them get me. So next time, I'm gonna make sure that thing doesn't get me. So now I know exactly every time I see this one ability, that's a fucking teleport. Like, I don't even have to read your book. I know what the fuck that one does.
Yeah.
You know?
I have read a lot of people are printing out reminders lists for their opponent's army. And I think that's interesting. I haven't tried that. I can imagine it would be useful. I also could see it being like you're trying to read 2 sheets at the same time and still play. That could be tough.
Yeah, I mean, in a casual setting, fine.
Yeah.
Right? Like LGS, you usually are setting up like play dates anyway in an LGS or a club. Like clubs are real, you know, it all comes back to like what type of game do you want, right? Like what type of game do you want? Do you want the tightest rules game ever where you're just 2 like battlefield generals with like the board in front of you with tiny wooden dudes and you have like some guy with white gloves moving them around for you because you're just so busy, your mustache is too huge you can't see beneath it, like it comes into like what type of game you want to have. And even in tournament play, people have different expectations for going in there. Some people just want an excuse to play 5 games. They don't even care. They just want to play 5 games in one weekend and have a great excuse for getting away from their family. That
will basically be me at Adepticon this year.
I
want 1 win, baby. I want 1 win.
See, and that goes into like setting your own expectations. You know, giving yourself some achievable goals. Like if you walked up to have you been to Adepticon before?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so if you walked up to Adepticon and you're like, I am winning Best in Faction Adepticon, you're like, ooh, you know, that goal, you might walk away with some bad feels if that's like where you set that goal. Now, if you've been like grinding tournaments and you're on that 3-2, 4-1, or that 4-1, 5-0 like cusp, and you're like, this one is the one where I win best death or best whatever or win a hobby award, like, yeah, now you've got a more realistic expectation, and then you got to look at now what steps did you take to reach that goal. Like expectation management, man, this is completely off the side, but like I think it all like works into building a good tournament experience for yourself. You mentioned printing off both lists. That might begin to go into the territory of now it's distracting. This is a player aid that becomes too distracting. Like, we do play a social game, so we got to take it on good faith that the person we're playing against isn't a shitbag. You know, like,
right.
I don't think I have had one truly bad game of Age of Sigmar in over a year of tournaments now. One truly bad, and it wasn't even really that person's fault. They just had some stuff going on in their life. And like the wife is like texting them about like really bad health problems with the kids. Like it was just like that was the one bad game I had. And since that person was kind of checked out of the game, I kind of checked out of the game, and it was a sloppy game. I've had one bad game.
And by the way, I'm not meaning to suggest that like you should do a second reminders list so you can check on them. It's more so that when they enter their shooting phase, you like. So one of my contributors, Rogue Michael, what he does, he prints his, and then on his phone he'll punch in his opponent's list real fast. Mm-hmm. And so he just pulls it up, shooting phase. He's got like 3 things. Okay, good to go. So it's like a 10-second check. If your opponent's cheating, the reminders list, it might help, but that you've got a bigger, deeper problem at that point.
Like the whole cheating thing is like, I try to be optimistic. I don't think the average player is trying to cheat. I really do think that like I have gotten a rule wrong once. I just assume that other people get rules wrong.
I've gotten tons of rules wrong. I'm basically an idiot, so I totally empathize with anyone who gets rules wrong.
You shouldn't feel bad, like getting just on its face getting rules wrong. But like that's where one of my big things. Like I love to constantly remind this with AOS Reminders. I think the goal is to print off AOS Reminders, play your game, knowing that with AOS Reminders, knowing your rules are right. Checking the relevant FAQs goes with playing the game in general. If you play an army, check your FAQs. I still meet players that, what's the FAQ? Where do I find the FAQ? And I'm like, oh no, like, well, you really do need this information. Focus on getting your army right. use this reminder sheet, and then you want to get to a point where you have the reminder sheet, but you don't need it. You know, that's where you want to be.
And you usually use it for just like casting values at that point.
Casting values.
Yeah.
If your opponent asks you, oh, wait, was that beginning of combat or in the combat? Then you just like both look at the sheet, you know, like.
Yeah. That's what's good for me is the start of things or end of. Yes. I always mess them up so that it's good for me.
Yeah.
So I want to wind this back if I can.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
and talk about these stats in Coach's show, the emerging meta show in particular.
See, I've already ridden on the backs of giants to get where I am. Like, I don't have a show without AOS Coach. Let's just do his show again here and like steal all the fame. Let's go.
Welcome to the Coach Show.
Yeah, welcome to AOS Down Under.
Hey, all right. So here's the thing. Let's not be abusive to Coach here. Here's the thing. When I came into AOS, I had no idea what was good. I had no idea what other people ran, and I read like a ton of forums and took a ton of time trying to figure out lists. And then you got people who post shitty lists, and like you can't.
But they say it's great. I win. I have never lost with this list at my LGS, and you're just like, it's the worst. It's just garbage.
It's the word.
Yeah.
But this. Okay, so if I just watch Coach's show and I use these stats, I know that. For whatever reason, I know nothing about AOS, but I know like everyone likes the ethereal amulet. What's that about? And so like when we talk about parity, we're getting these new players a rung up on knowledge. Like Ignax's scales, apparently people take it. I don't know.
Right.
So and while I've been building my ogre army for Adepticon, I totally am cheating, man. I'm going in here and seeing what people pick.
He's got insider trading info.
Yeah. Because I've said this on every cast I've ever been on. I'm not good at Warhammer. I am a very bad player, and I'm not good at theory crafting. I don't read battle tomes and go, oh yeah, sick combo right here. Like I don't get it. I like painting a lot, and I like playing, but I'm not good at it. So when I go in here and I see that people are taking certain battalions, certain Maw tribes, whatever, it gives me a leg up, and it lets me like climb the shoulders of giants to get to the next level. Right. And it means that we as a community are going to be playing better games of Warhammer because everyone's going to be using the right stuff. Yeah, higher quality.
Higher quality games. And you're only as good as your competition. When it gets right down to it, like, you're only as good as your competition. And I want good games. I want you to... My objective one, actually, when I walk up to a tournament, or like a tournament game, is I want you to have a good... Yeah, that's every game. I walk up to it and I go, number one objective, I want to have a good game. I want my opponent to have a good game. Now, I do put a little, like, sort of caveat in my mind, a little asterisk, because I know that your idea of a good game versus this person's idea of a good game and that person's idea of a good game, and I am personally malleable to, like, okay, this person's going to play this type of game. All right, let's go. Like, got to change my mindset now a little bit. Like,
right.
Like, I do that. I try to. But, like, at the very least, if we all know the rules, you automatically get to have a little bit better of a game than without any guesswork. Like you get like I don't need to sit there and wonder, is this Mr. Fast and Loose Man because he's trying to cheat, or is this Mr. Fast and Loose Man because he really just wants to drink beer and eat pretzels and just fucking push models to the center of the table and like that like I like to take the guesswork out of it. Like let's just so and this moves towards building better lists and helping you understand your rules a little bit better. It's just making for cleaner games. And by the way, if you know your rules better, if I know your rules better because you just turn the sheet around and you don't have to go fishing through a book, I go, oh yeah, that's how the rule plays. Our game goes quicker. And regardless of how social I am or not, I'm very social. If our game goes quicker, I get to talk more, and then I'm having a blast. As opposed to talk more and then the game doesn't finish. So yeah, Coach, we love you, by the way, man. We're just taking the piss out.
Yeah, sorry about the impressions. That was bad.
No, I thought it was pretty good. I feel like I just gained like 3 follows or likes on wherever this ends up.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess this is as good a time as any to maybe introduce the latest project that I've been working on.
All right. So, go ahead and click over here. So you've been working on this with Darren Watson, the list whisperer himself.
Yep. Team England and all that. He's a genius. Now, what you see before you, and so for people who are listening on podcast, we're looking at the Battle for the Past scenario. And for the people who are looking at this visually, I know it's ugly. I'm very sorry. I am not a designer. I am just a programmer. So what you see now is super, super, super alpha. It's the alpha of the alpha. This isn't getting released anytime soon. But the idea here is that you come in and you can select which scenario you're using. So if you go ahead and click on the Battle for the Pass
yep.
drop down.
Really? You could put 3 in here and you put in total commitment?
Sorry. I was just looking through for easy ones in the book, you know. And the idea is you're going to come in here.
I'm going to click Scorched Earth on principle. Okay.
There you go.
All right.
There you go. So it's got the battle plan that you've got in the General's Handbook or in the core games or whatever. The objectives are there. The center line is there. And then you've got these markers showing where you can deploy. Mm-hmm. I just added those rulers in. They don't work super well yet, but you can drag them around and see that, you know, the objectives are 6 inches and all that.
So you've got like the little measuring sticks here, like the actual like 9, 6 inch and so on.
Yeah, and eventually that'll be like you can draw your own ruler at any angle. They're very limited right now, but you can see, you know, you got to deploy 9 inches back. Mm-hmm. So if you punch in like 10 in the number of models input, and then you can
the number of models.
Yep, and then you can select the base size, so like 25 or 32,
right. We'll stick
whatever.
With 25.
You can name the unit.
All right, so we're gonna call this Bone Daddies.
Oh yeah.
XXXL.
Oh, okay. I thought you were just going XXX. I was scared. All right. So, and then hit deploy unit.
Deploy unit. All right, cool. So I've got little green tokens here in a line.
Yeah. So again, this is all very, very, very preliminary, but you can change the color of them, because you're gonna have multiple
Purple
units.
Purple is best color. Got it. Boom.
Obviously.
All right.
And now this part is not intuitive at all. I'm looking for a way to improve this, but if you want to move it like an individual base,
model?
You click it once, it'll turn red, and that means that it can be dragged around individually.
Okay, yeah. All right, cool. So all right, I want to deploy this dude here, and then now I got to get my my 10 models. Well, all right, we'll get okay. Oh, dude, and they maintain so when I grab the whole unit and drag, they drag in that coherency.
Yes.
So if I draw a wicked S or whatever, because everyone knows you deploy like in weird like concentric circles and Fibonacci sequences, it's better.
So obviously some things need to happen here. One, if you move your base out of cohesion, I need to add some sort of thing that's like an exclamation point or something that's like, hey, like this isn't legal at all.
Right.
I need to add better rulers. I need to make the UI not look like dog shit. But the idea is here, I think.
Yeah.
I hope you guys can see the idea. And by the way, the idea came from Darren Watson. He was like, how awesome would it be if you could talk about deployment? Because what I've been hearing, so he said this to me like 2 weeks ago, I think. He was like, man, you should, could you do this? And I was like, I don't know. And I actually didn't want to do it because I was already working on AOS Reminders so much. And like, also I just came back to actual work from vacation. And I had a lot of shit on my plate. And all of a sudden, and I don't know if he did this or what happened, it seemed like every podcast and every opinion haver in AOS was talking about how like deployment is the most crucial stage of the game. And I was like, all right, well, shit, I'll do it. So
there's a lot of battle plans and a lot of games you will lose on deployment. It's just a reality of the game. This is like I like to tell people to practice their deployments as much as they can to see like the eventualities and then redeploy and try again. Like if you know how a game's going to end, within first off, never give up on a game. Like just freaking play it out if you can, because you don't know what will happen in a game of chance. But like if you're worried about if you're like, oh man, I lost that game on deployment. If you're doing some casual games and you're gaming to get better, I mean, again, this goes into what type of game are you playing. Re-rack, man. Redeploy. Learn the lesson. So a tool like this expedites that process. I mean, obviously this is like alpha max, like this is even pre-beta, but like, yeah, this is a great idea, and I can't think of a better guy for the job. So I'm excited to watch this develop.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool, man. So we're thinking that this could be this could take the leap to 40K as well, since it's a pretty general, like, I mean, they're also using 32mm bases and all that. So we're thinking it could do that. One of the big things is going to be, you know, auras need to be represented. So you need to, you know, you should be able to put down.
Within, yeah.
Yeah. So all that stuff and the custom measuring and stuff. And then we'll do the same thing as AOS Reminders, essentially. There will eventually be a subscription plan. That'll be for, like, if you want to save and reload and do all these things. Actually, if you scroll all the way down right now, there should be a save image. Hopefully that works. I added that about 10 minutes before we started this thing.
Object PNG. Let's see.
Okay, so I need to fix that.
All right. Yep. Came up here in my Photoshop Lite program, Paint.net.
Oh, perfect.
It works. Yeah. So here we go.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Okay. And this is my weird squiggly formation that I made just outside the objective.
Yeah.
All right.
So awesome. So I added that 10 minutes before we started.
I actually, believe it or not, I know a couple players who draw their deployments before they even get to, like, if you give them a tournament pack, if you give them a tournament pack and you put the deployments in the tournament pack, they'll just draw their deployments on that map regardless of their opponent. They'll just be like, this is how I'm going to deploy on this scenario. And they just like have that going into the tournament. They know they're going to deploy that way. So
yep. And that's what, so Darren was sending me some like examples of, because I guess Team England has like a WhatsApp chat where they talk about this stuff, and he sent it to me, and yeah, like they're just drawing up, they're going into every game with essentially the same plan. Right. Because the main thing is overlapping all your buffs and debuffs and all that, and then measuring out how can I get to these objectives turn one. So I think that this is, again, I'm glad Darren talked to me about it. I like making tools where I just instinctively am like, hell yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. And
so this is another like, hell yeah, awesome. And I'm glad I have the skills to make it.
Well, yeah, no, it's awesome. And one of the things with this notion of parity, giving, like, I feel like sometimes we talk about Age of Sigmar, we talk about it from like a competitive first mindset. You know, top tables, this is gonna be a problem. You know, but then like we need to dial it back and remember, just like with RantCast, this is RantCast 29. It's somebody's first episode of RantCast right now. You know, every time you play anytime these discussions are going about Age of Sigmar, it might be someone's first time approaching Age of Sigmar. Anything we can do to help those first time players, like, sort of climb up in that like up to that new water level of base player knowledge is great. You know, like anything we can do. And I think this is one of those tools that can do that, just like AOS Reminders. Oh man. Have you, so real quick here, I'm not familiar with what this is, but Relian says this reminds him of Universal Battle. They used to play Warhammer Online with it. That might be a program worth looking into, at least for UI, because if you can build some non-copyright infringing familiarity or see what they did and what they did better, that might be a good thing. I know that I used a Tabletop Simulator for a long time for a lot of stuff until I discovered Roll20.net. So,
yeah, I know that these things are floating around out there, and I know that like you can also do this in PowerPoint and whatever. So like I know that there are alternatives. Some of it was just from a technical standpoint, all this, like in a web development standpoint, this is all being done with the canvas, which is something that I'm not super familiar with. I've never really tackled it for work or anything. So this is, again, like trying to expand my horizons with a good idea.
Well, see, I think this is a fantastic point here just inside this, is like Age of Sigmar has just, it's made my life better, objectively speaking. And like your grind, your personal grind has included getting better at programming because the community, you know, and Age of Sigmar. And I just think that's the magic of AOS. I said a long time, I've been around nerd gaming and stuff my entire life. It wasn't until Age of Sigmar that I felt like I found a home. So, like, I love the D&D community, but I mean, I didn't make a D&D podcast. So, just to, you know, like, so,
by the way, can I put links in chat? Is that possible?
Yeah, go ahead. No, Chatbot doesn't ban links or anything. Chatbot, I'm sorry, Incantibot is a benevolent
Okay, first of all, don't leave the Twitch chat. Like, that's very important. But there's the link to go look at the very, very alpha version of it and play with it yourself. That link is going to be down by the weekend. So if you're listening to this on a podcast, don't worry, you're not missing anything. It's already gone. But people who are currently here can look at it real quick and play with it. Feel free to give me advice and stuff, but also know that, like, in Warhammer terms, this is like the Zenithal primed miniature. Like, it has that much done to it. There's a lot more to go. So don't talk to me about how to paint the eyes yet. I'm not there. I need to base code it. So, and AOS coach is blowing up my DMs. Good, man. I love it when you slide in there. It's all right.
Slide in them DMs, coach.
All right, mate.
This show for the accents alone. So yeah, there's the big hot tease. Do you have a timeline on this?
TBD, man. It should. A personal goal would be it should be like functional enough to be proud of by the time I go to Adepticon. That's March, I believe. So yeah, within a month or two, it should be like good to go. I should be planning my Adepticon list with this tool. Because like I said, I'm bad at Warhammer. This will help me. So
yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is like they talk about know your audience, and in writing they tell you, well, my audience is not the best take. It's not the best approach. But I think if it's something you would use, I think that is a good take. If it's something you would use. Yeah,
in software.
Yeah, go ahead.
In software, we call it dog fooding. It's you make your own dog food and you eat it. So if you use a product, there's actually, and this is a total tangent.
No, go on, man.
I've been programming professionally for a while now, and one of the things that happens is that's like really deadly to good software. And if you've ever wondered why software that you love suddenly started sucking, this happens sometimes. Sometimes you become so busy building the software, working on the software, solving bugs that you move away from you don't use it anymore. It would be like if I stopped playing AOS, but I still maintained AOS Reminders, I might start to seem out of sync with it. And so it's really important to me, at least, that like when you make a tool, you got to keep using it, because, and I know every single time that I print off like an AOS reminder sheet, I'm like, shit, this could have been better. And so like the continued usage of something by the programmer creating it is really, really important. And I've noticed that when it comes to corporate products that people are working, I used to do government contracting and I work at a bank now. Sometimes it's really hard to use your own stuff. Like the government contractor I used to work at, we were dealing with medical data. And it was like, I don't casually do medical data stuff. And so our product was like a little shitty, but it was not great. And things like this, when they're passion projects and the creator is using them every day, they're always going to feel a little bit better. Or I hope it feels better. That's just a tangent, but it's a philosophy
I think you can relate that to Age of Sigmar. I think the armies you resonate with are the ones that are you're passionate about. If I make an army just to win, unless you're passionate about winning, by all means, man, just freaking go as hard as you possibly can. But if you're passionate about the army yourself, I think you're gonna you want to make it better. You identify with it better. You notice the flaws better. Like it gives you a better total experience when you got that passion in there. And I know 100% what you're talking about with the programming. There was an app I was, like I said, I know just enough about programming to be dangerous with Google and an IRC bot. But I was in a program and I knew just enough. I'm like, the person who designed this app, it was like some proprietary, maybe like a banking app, sign into this for your grocery list. I can't remember what it was. I'm like, the person who made this was just a contracted programmer who just made it for this small business and never used the thing that it was used for. They checked the boxes, they made it do the thing, but they never, like, where the UI is one of the first things that you just like, bad UI, immediately I hate your program. But yeah, it was just like the UI, like, I'm like, why are things in these places? PayPal's app actually kind of like could use, like, whoever did the PayPal app needs to like give that one a once over again. It's really obtuse how to get through some of the things you do the most often with it. Like, why can't I just add funds? Why isn't there an add funds button? There's like a send request is more prominent So like me begging for money is more prominent than like using it to buy stuff. The fuck? Like, you know, like things like that where it's like, like whoever used this, they came at it backwards. But yeah, like I said, good indicator if you would use it. I think it really does hold out with this. So, I'll look for you at Adepticon, and I hope to see your print off deployment.
Yeah, are you going? Are you going?
Sir. Yeah. I already signed up. I very nearly talked myself into the very important gamer badge experience.
Oh, nice.
We're in layoff season right now, so I didn't spoil myself.
I did get it.
You did get it. Nice.
Yeah, I was pretty pleased.
I'm a little jelly. I'm not gonna lie. I'll be a little bit jealous. I'll be like staring at your special like lanyard, and I'll just be like. But yeah. I mean, I'm down to like layoff beer right now, which for me is hams. It would have been PBR, but hipsters drove the price of PBR up, so like now I have to settle for hams instead. But every first like snowfall in Wisconsin, you're like dropped a supply box of like one craft beer with a glass over it that says break in case of an emergency. So I actually have this Milwaukee Brewing Company plowed in winter ale, and I broke the glass for tonight's RantCast so that I could bust this out. But yeah, we're in layoff beer mode right now. Like all that, like couldn't buy the VIG badge, so but no, I will be at Adepticon. I will be in the big teams event actually. So
are you doing the narrative as well?
I am not doing the narrative. One of my personal goals is to devote myself a little bit more to narrative this year. I know. Yeah. I try to have like a total view of Age of Sigmar so that when I talk about it, I have a total view of Age of Sigmar. You know, my competitive lean is noted. Everyone knows about it. I talk about it. I think it's fine to approach the game from a competitive first mentality and then make like concessions, if that makes sense. Yeah. But that's just how I'm wired. Like, my thought is, so like Street Fighter, right? So like if Street Fighter is a bad fighting game, would I truly care if like the story is great if I can't play your busted game? Now, I do think there's some exceptions with Age of Sigmar because a lot of the time we spend with this game isn't necessarily playing it, but like I care about rules and design and gameplay and stuff like that. So I look at the gameplay first, and then from there you gotta pass the like I guess I just view like narrative as a prerequisite. Like it should already have that stuff. And if it doesn't, why am I even looking at your game? And then from there, I want to play a good game. So
right. So the one thing I have found is that the narrative games. So I'm not like the best. I'm never gonna win, best narrative gamer because I actually I don't read the lore that much. I read it, but like
I'm not laughing at you. I just like. No, are you me right now? Are you me right now?
Yeah, like I appreciate the lore, and it's good that there's that backdrop. But on the other hand, like. When some people like Doug 2+ Tough, when they pull stuff out of their ass, they're like, "Oh, this character, he's mad because this one assassinated this one."
Yeah, any of the Mortal Realms guys.
Yeah, I'm just like, wow, that's very impressive, and I will never know that. But when I'm painting my guys, there is a narrative in my head.
Yes, yeah.
So it's the Davis narrative, but
no. See, this is important. A distinction between world lore and personal narrative. I'm actually gonna do a you need lore reminders. No, I'm gonna do I'm gonna do a roundcast a roundtable rantcast.
Squarecast.
Yeah, Squarecast apparently. With a bunch of community members. I'm gonna have Paul from the Mortal Realms. Hopefully Tom Lyons. He's got to okay it with the fam. We're gonna have. Chuck on there. It's like this whole like round table, and the focus is going to be about personal narrative, essentially, like narrative in general and what that means to you. Like Age of Sigmar is a game where you put your personal spin on a lot of stuff. Being able to put your personal spin on the narrative and the lore itself of your army is a super important part of that. It's why I care more to play with my models, because I remember the story of this guy, and when he dies on the table, I get that extra hit of like the feels, because like, no, you didn't just kill generic Mortek Guard number 9. You killed X.
You killed Bob!
Yeah, you killed Bob! That was my favorite one. I painted that one really well. Or it could be painting, or it could be like the narrative you come up with it. I think those things are super important to the game. But I do think that there's a difference between, like, knowing the lore of the game and the setting. And the setting is very deep. Like, at its surface. Yeah. Setting is just, like, kind of the surface level stuff. And my anatomy of a narrative professor is, like, mad right now at me for saying that plot is somehow different from or setting is somehow different from plot or lore, but you know what, you don't play Age of Sigmar, do you?
so to take this, so what I was trying to say, and then I got all diverted about how I don't know lore. Narrative games are really fun because you're playing with people that generally do not give a shit about winning, and they're totally like, when I played at Nova, I played all the narrative games, and people would be like, strategically, I should charge them. Narratively, I'm gonna fuck that guy up, and it was just like, that's fun to me. It's a totally different.
But then, how will they know that I'm better than them if they're not trying as hard as me?
Yeah.
Like, the competitive brain just comes out like, no, I think winning in a game with a win condition, you should never feel bad about that. But there are other ways to play the game, and I think that's an important point to highlight. I have said, actually, the Boy Wonder was on with the last List Science episode, with Brendan Melnick and him.
He did a great job.
Yeah, he was good. I thought that was a good episode. We're bringing it back as a monthly installment now. I'm going to do List Science, at least with Brendan every month, and we might have some other guests come in if they've got some hot take List Science stuff that they want to debut. So that'll be back as, like, we're going to do that as a monthly installment now, because I really enjoyed it, and it was pretty receptive. But he said, like, I have games where, like, I shouldn't teleport the Keeper of Secrets, but I do because it's fun. And I'm like, that happens to me too. Even in the most competitive environment, I'll just be like, okay, all right, I just rolled the boxcars on the charge. I'm going to use the 12. Like, I only needed the 6 to make this charge here. And that's the charge I needed to make for the objective. But
it's sort of like D&D. If you roll a natural 20, like, it happens. If you roll boxcars, you're going. You got to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, you just crit. You just crit on the charge roll. Do the biggest move you can. Not the best move. Do the biggest move. And that possesses me. You know, too. Like, at the table, it doesn't matter if it's narrative or not. So I plan on focusing a little bit more on narrative. A couple of narrative events. Just adding them to my repertoire. I'm just enriching my own Age of Sigmar experience at that point.
I just had another beer delivered to me. Thank you.
Wow. See, wow, I've got the 6-pack sitting next to me getting warmer. You've got it made. Wait a second. Davis, best man. Like, you've got a monogram glass.
Yeah. It's from my cousin, who also plays Age of Sigmar, actually, and he's one of the reasons I did AOS Reminders, because I don't think he'll ever hear this. My cousin, intentionally or not, I'll never be sure, was just cheating his ass off in the early days of Age of Sigmar that we started playing. He got so many rules wrong, and so he played Sylvaneth, and they were the second army I added to the site. Dude, he had so many rules wrong, and I was going through his book, adding them to the code base, and I was just like, unbelievable. He's doing that. So anyways, I learned a lot from doing that.
Well, yeah, no, you know, this is another take regarding, like, rules and stuff like that. Like, you don't need to have a head for rules or be the best person at rules in the world. I mean, like I said, I do have a head for rules. I think there's a lot of people I really enjoy conversations with. Like, we just talk rules all day, interactions, fun combos. Like, you know, I've played tabletop RPGs since I was 9 years old. You know, I love rules and systems and stuff like that. That's my brain just, like, eats it up. I'm a GM or a DM, the forever, quote unquote, forever GM or forever DM. So, like, I always run, I never play, and all I do is sit there thinking about, like, encounters and interesting combos with feats and doing stuff like this. That's all my brain does. But, like, you don't need to have a brain like that to prepare well. If you prepare well, that you're giving yourself. You're letting your brain take a rest. It's just building muscle memory, building building muscle memory. The same thing happens with like sort of rules with your army. And the better you are at your rules, the other guy hopefully will take care of themselves, right? But if you take care of yourself, you're going to put yourself in a great position to win games, if that's what you want. And just by knowing your rules, your games are automatically going to be better, because you can take the 12-inch charge. That's the bad idea. You can, you can take the bad charge. You can go fight the person's general, even though you should be fighting over the objective, because my character's a bloodthirsty headhunter and they just want more. You can do it that way. And there's nothing wrong with that. And yeah, again, you don't need the head for on the flip side of things. If you have a head for rules, but you never read the right rules, or you never read your own rules, you're not doing yourself any favors either. So AOS Reminders is great. I mean, again, it's got to be at least every tournament I run into somebody who's never heard of the FAQ. Not necessarily play against them, because that'd be a much smaller sample size. Your audio seems to have cut out, though, my friend. Yeah, you're cut out. Yeah. So now I'm going to serenade you all. There, he's back.
How about that? Yeah. Hey, turns out the mute button works. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. And so we got, I like tournaments, and Coach can vouch. I go overboard on list science, but I love narrative games so much.
I agree with Coach on that. The problem is it's harder to get practice than it is to list build. So it's really easy to always be like, oh, I'm going back to the drawing board. It's not as easy to get someone who's willing to play a 3-hour game with you consistently.
Well, and I need to lay out, when I talk about list science, I love it personally. I'm not saying anything regarding like you need to do tons of list science to like win games either. That is not the take. I just enjoy it thoroughly. I get a lot of fun out of building encounters in D&D too. Like building an encounter that my player but the other part of that is like seeing if it works on the table how I thought. Not to like derail my own chat here, but my favorite encounter I've ever made was I made a boss character who was like essentially a Time Lord. And the whole mechanic of the fight dealt with like initiative order, because initiative in D&D, it's just like it doesn't really mean a whole lot. So like where you went in the initiative order affected how the abilities worked.
Oh.
And, like, because this person was manipulating time and stuff. And so like I thought that was a great mechanic, a great idea. And then I'm like, but then we had to play it to see if it worked the way I had envisioned it, and if my players would pick up on the essential puzzle was the initiative order. And then intent with the rules was also like this weird thing, because it had to do with improbability. So it was really cool. It was like it was my favorite encounter, and that one actually worked out really well. On the flip side, I had the encounter I thought was going to be, I don't know if you play tabletop RPGs at all or not.
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then Ty, this is just for you if you're watching. I did an encounter where essentially the whole party got mind controlled, because they were building up to fight this evangelist, this cult leader whose honeyed words could convert even the person possessing of the most metal in the world to like fall to his whims, right? His whole thing was like he was unnaturally possessed by some god and so on and so forth. So it was a big narrative payoff moment. And I'm like, oh crap, they're gonna have to actually confront this person who's in the lore has to be able to charm the entire party, right? But now I'm about to take away player agency, which is kind of one of the cardinal sins of Dungeons and Dragons, is removing player agency. It's actually one of the cardinal sins of narrative. If your characters in a comic book or a movie aren't making decisions that seem like those characters would make, you immediately have a problem with that movie. You may not realize that's why you start having a problem with the movie or the book or whatever, but you start Harry Potter. God damn it. I swore I wasn't going to make fun of Harry Potter again. I said I wouldn't.
I didn't know you make fun of Harry Potter all the time.
No. Like Harry Potter ending up with what's the little girl's name?
What, Hermione? Oh, Ginny?
Ginny Weasley, yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's like has a huge problem with that.
That was a weird one, yeah.
Do you know why you have a problem with that as a Harry Potter fan? Dear Harry Potter fan.
Because it just didn't fit. It was just, why did that happen?
It doesn't seem like it follows the character's agency.
He should have ended up with Ron, to be honest.
Probably, yeah. So like you have player agency again, like, and character agency. This is a big part of narrative. You're all getting a narrative lesson now. So what I had just done in D&D is I built an encounter where I removed player agency. So I had a problem. How do I give them agency back? And my idea was that, okay, so he can, like, anyone with, like, agency he can, like, control. But he can't control, like, just a monster that wants to eat him. So he's going to give a big boss speech, mind control the whole party, and then a huge monster is going to attack and try to eat him. And so the whole, like, encounter became you're mind controlled to not hurt him, and you have to fight the monster. But now you have to fight the monster in such a way that puts him in mortal danger.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. My players fucking hated it. They couldn't get past removing agency. Like, they could not get past that first step. And your reaction right there, hey, that's pretty cool. That was my reaction when I came up with the encounter. Because I built the narrative that there was just this, like, guy who could mentally possess anybody. He was the Purple Man from Marvel Comics. Like, just could tell you to do anything. And, like, but, like, I had violated that rule of player agency in that party's mind too much that they just weren't happy anymore. And so the encounter...
the way that I said, hey, that's cool, that's probably how Slaanesh players felt about Locust.
Yes! Way to freaking get the hang of RantCast, dude!
Yeah,
it's
like,
exactly.
Oh, that's so neat. Oh, wait, people will hate me.
Right, and I feel that way about a lot of rules I see in Age of Sigmar. Like, I feel that way about, like... I said, a while ago, I saw that stupid book meme that showed up. Where it's like, oh, if you get a book written by this guy... or versus this guy.
Jervis and yeah.
I'm like, and I just like, I hated that meme so much, and I couldn't quite articulate why. Like when it first happened, I'm just like, I hate this so much, and I can't put it into words why. And one of the things I realized is because Jervis, in a sense, he's making that mind control evangelist encounter a lot of the time, and you go, that's really cool. That's really awesome. I like how that pushes the envelope of design and has interesting implications. And sometimes it even has really strong lore implications. Locus of Diversion, the lore for it checks the box. It makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
You strike... They're not blazing fast fighting before you. You're fighting last, and they're taking their time enjoying it because there is a demon who represents everything you've ever wanted in the room. Right? And you are lulled into this. But then what happened with my players? Well, they didn't have a good experience. And so that's the other part of the puzzle. And that's something
that actually happened to me at Nova when I was in the narrative games. I ended up in a duos game, and my teammate was a Slaanesh player. And he came up to me. He was a really nice guy. He came up to me and he like had this big grin on his face. He's like, I'm undefeated so far. I'm doing really well, man. My guys are killing it. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And so we were playing, and like I was kind of getting my ass kicked on my side of the board. And he was up against Iron Jaws, and he was just ruining the guy. He was just destroying him. And the guy on the other side of the table was so nice, and he's just sitting there trying not to get worked up. He's like, oh, I fight last. Oh, okay. And it was just the whole game. It was 5 turns, like 3.5 hours of just, oh, okay. The activation stuff, man, I really wish... The cat's probably out of the bag at this point.
It is.
But I wish they would roll it back. It just makes things very confusing. I know that and I've liked some of the novel mechanics that they brought out, like Archaon's new ability with the where you can kind of dictate who goes first. That's awesome. I think that's really interesting. It might be a little over. I don't know.
It could be pushed. It might be pushed, right?
But I like where they're finding these little areas. They're like, oh, you thought that you always go in this turn order. Guess again. And they're finding these little things to tweak. And as someone who's read a lot of rules,
right?
It's refreshing to see something that's not just like, oh, +1
to hit. Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Okay, yeah, we landed on that one. So I like when they're exploring these different rule sets. Like KO's new book, they're able to bring any endless spell. Which, by the way, I have to reprogram AOS Reminders to account for that. That's never happened because the way I read it, they can bring anything.
Yeah,
right?
anything. Yeah,
so
Wildfire Taurus, Skaven's Rat Trap. They can anything. Yeah. It's the endless spell Pokeball. Just like Wildfire Taurus, I choose you, and you just fucking toss it out. And by the way, this is again backed by the fluff. Their alchemy science is so insane that they could just distill a spell into a smoke and put it in a bottle and like smash it. Say ninja vanish, and then it's just 2 Geminids fly out. It's fucking awesome.
It's really awesome.
You pay your points. You pay your points, so like boom, we maintain the currency of the game. You're not messing with the currency. So you maintain the currency of the game, and then you just get to have a fun time with awesome rules. Like, I want that stuff in the game. But, like, again, we have this line between when's the thing awesome and when do you... In D&D, I use player agency. And I think in Age of Sigmar, I've distilled it down to meaningful decision. When do you remove meaningful decision for players on either side of that exchange? And that's the... You can go up to that. But, like, you know, what was my big Petrifex Elite rant yesterday? Not on RantCast. I was just, like, painting and streaming. The big thing I said was, the reason I don't complain about... like, I'm pretty consistent in my stances. I think a lot of people will... I've changed stances, but I'm pretty consistent in how I formulate a stance. How I get to that stance. The thing I don't hate about Petrifex Elite in the end that everyone hates is kill points don't dictate how you win the game of Age of Sigmar. So the fact that they're difficult to kill doesn't do it for me in terms of saying it's a NPE versus just you had a bad game or a bad time playing that game. NPE as a design philosophy means that this is a negative play experience. This has more of a negative impact on the game than just winning or losing, right? Like the War Scroll for the Plague Monk. I think that's one of the best, most recent NPE examples I have. Because it wasn't just that it did infinite damage. Tons of stuff do infinite damage. I don't care about that. Like, Witch Elves do infinite damage. Whatever. But at least they do infinite damage. They roll their boatloads of dice, and you're either dead or you're not.
Right.
Like, the NPE for Plague Monks was rolling boatloads of dice over and over and over again. Different attack profile. Blah, blah, blah. Even the person playing that wasn't having a good time.
Right. And there were so many memes about that in general. And so that actually brings me to, like, again, I've read a lot of rules and stuff. I've read a lot of War Scrolls. I have maybe a radical change that I would make to AOS, which is I would get rid of, you know how every unit has a leader and they get +1 attack or whatever.
Yeah.
I would get rid of that. I would also get rid of banner buffs. And I know that those two things, the leader and the banners.
Dare you?
Well, here's the thing. I would remove the necessity for a model to be designated as one and instead just make that an inherent unit thing. I realize that that's not as tactical because it does matter if your banner bearer gets killed. So you have to allocate your wounds. But I feel like it's sort of an edge case. And I would rather the War Scrolls are simpler, faster to play with, easier. I know that, like, okay, when I was playing Seraphon, I would run a 40 blob of skinks and they would get in close combat and I'd go, well, which one's the leader? I don't know. And little things like that, they slow the game down by 5 seconds or whatever, but like it seems unnecessary. And in programming, we try to do things, we try to formalize data models so that data behaves predictably, so that we can say, okay, if it's case A, do this. If it's case B, do this. You have a problem when you start going, okay, case C, D, E, F, G. You're going to run into bugs and unintended consequences. And I think that that's what the activation wars are right now. They tried a novel mechanic and they have this. Now it's kind of fucking the game up. And I know some people are saying it's not that big of a deal, but just knowing the level of expertise you have to have about the game to correctly reason about the activation wars, it's too much already. I really wish they would walk it back. I know they won't, but it's not great.
I think so activation wars aren't going anywhere. I don't mind in and of themselves the notion of a Magic the Gathering stack in Age of Sigmar. But the way it was implemented is wrong and they need to fix it. By the way, you just became Endor the biggest hero Endor pariah of Chat Gang, with your derisive statement about like banners. Like they're popping off in all caps. This is fantastic. I actually really like that take and that sentiment. So what you just described in coding is actually very similar in like rules theory. Is if you have to or even even in like a narrative, if you have to over explain something, or you actually tend to be creating more problems than stuff. I like your banner take. I don't know that I will take it up the way I took up a couple other charges that had changed my mind, but I like it. I respect it. Like, first off, like the hero in a ghouls unit, which fucking model is it?
Yeah, who knows? So how do you play it? Like, do you mark one as hero or as the leader? Or it's just messy.
Which fucking hero? Like, on the other, like, so there's, again, we're gonna back and forth here on this one, but this it's a thought worth exploring. So I want to explore it a little bit. Like, which fucking one is it? Okay, like, where is it? Like, when you're deploying your banners, if you have like Holy Within or like range language, you have to be cognizant of it. So you have to like deploy it. And yes, more tactical, sure. But like, is the extra tactics with how I deploy a single model in a blob of 40, is that really the minutia we want to get hung up on in a game like ours? Is it?
Right.
And I ask that openly, philosophically. Is that the minutia we want to get hung up on in dictating games?
I just don't think so. I just think that there's enough going on that we don't need that one thing to worry about.
I like the idea of
my leaders are...
By the way...
Coach is saying, how are your leaders not modeled? Mine are. They're like the Skinks example. They have like a bigger crest or whatever you would call that thing on top. Mm-hmm. But again, when there's 40 of them, they're all blue. Why am I bothering? I would rather, and also, honestly, in casual gameplay, I will totally just not take the extra attack rather than look for it. I'll just go, whatever. It's 40 attacks. Yeah,
flags, those models fucking tip over all the goddamn time. Like, you always get snagged on shit. Like, no, I like the idea of moving it onto the War Scroll.
Yeah.
I like the idea of moving it onto the War Scroll. And here's, if I can meet you halfway on this. How about we move it onto the War Scroll of the unit? If you have it, you have the ability. If it's dead, you don't. And you move it to the unit itself rather than the individual model. So your Hornblower, you only check it if the situation comes up where you need to check it. The extra model attack, you only check it. You're not checking for the individual model to, like, measure from, base decisions on, do the extra attack for. If you have your leader man in the unit, you have one more attack because the leader man's in the unit.
Yeah.
If the leader man dies, you don't have your extra attack. So I think there's a nice little in-between ground there.
How about this as an in-between? If your unit is above half strength, it is feeling inspired, and it gets +1 attack.
We already have a rule like that, though.
But to replace the leader in the model, you just say they get +1 attack unless this happens. And so you sort of model the, like, you know, the leader getting killed, but you keep the +1 attack. I don't really care. I just think that I don't even think there needs to be a solution. Just get rid of it. I wouldn't even want to meet you halfway, to be honest.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Like I said, I think this is it's a conversation. It's a fun thought to explore, because I think this is
absolutely
what you're getting at is a general thing I see in the game mechanics of the game. When is a rule that is obtuse worth tolerating, right? And people's tolerance zone for those rules, they're going to be different, right?
Yeah.
I think your tiebreakers should favor the nature of the game that we play, and should favor players using them. So a practicality clause, and then a narrative and hobby clause. Like, I think those are the two tiebreakers. And so I respect your take. I really do. I could almost get on board with it, but I'm a little bit on the coach side of this one, where like just model the stuff, man, because we have a model game, you know, like that. And that's where, like, so like that's like the super like emotional anecdotal counterpoint is all I've got, which is the flimsiest counterpoint you could have. But yeah, just model the stuff. Like, that's where I come out. But
that's totally fair.
But again, I respect the take, and like I could almost be on board with it. Like, I'm like right there, because like where my tiebreakers are on like a rule that I'm like kind of for, like I'm right there with you. Like, I could probably be swayed with like a small cash donation, like a bribe or something. like this is not the hill I'll die upon if it changed in the future. But yeah, no, I do think the greater point is you're illustrating with the activation wars is the more worthy part of it. The logic behind your sentiments on banners, horns, leader guys.
Yeah, when Vince Venturella posted that, or he had that great show and he put up that image, I was like, that's it. It's the game is collapsing on itself a little bit, and I know that the actual chances of running into these things is fairly low, but I also know what it's like to you hit that point, you're like an hour and a half into a game of Warhammer, and both you have to stop because you're like, wait, how does that interact? And I already see it just slowing things down, and the last thing Warhammer needs is to take longer. It's the absolute last thing. So I respect that they're trying to push the boundary of things. Don't think it worked in this case. Would like to roll it back.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Vince and I talked about it for a little bit, and for my opinion on that, click like, subscribe, and then go watch the RantCast with Vince Venturella. No, I worry that the cat is too far out the bag now. It can't go back in. And so now I just want to look for a clean solution, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So what is it? Because right now what we have is you got an immovable force, unstoppable object. But if the immovable force was spawned later than the unstoppable object, then it overrides it. It's like, what? It's ridiculous. So what is it?
That in and of itself wouldn't be the problem, by the way. Like this sort of notion of a first in, last out. That wouldn't in and of itself. Soren, man, thank you so much for the biddies. By the way, I saw you earlier. You said you're a little bit more stressed out today, so grab yourself a cocktail, settle in, and enjoy these two dulcet tones in your ear. Cheers, man.
Ooh, baby.
So, no, I don't think that in and of itself is a huge problem. The problem is every sort of micro iteration of that rule. Each army was not designed with a stack in mind. I'm just going to call it like a stack, because Magic the Gathering has their magic stack. So if I counter your spell, but you counter my counter spell is countered, and then your spell resolves, right? Like, that's how the stack works. First in, last out. Like, blah, blah, blah. Easy. Straightforward. Like the order of operations. It's like PEMDOS, but for Age of Sigmar.
Right.
It's fine. But the problem is that the rules that were not written with it in mind. This was a patchwork fix to a problem that kind of cropped up because we entered this sort of arms race of activations. So something that's supposed to stop your always strikes first, when they wrote it in as a rule, doesn't necessarily work that way, because it activates at the wrong point in the exchange. Right. This is my proposal to the whole thing, is to just have a buff phase. Or like have an we have an in-between phase for like endless spells and stuff. Like, I think we can have an in-between phase for buffs.
That's interesting. Well, but even within that phase, when they eventually start.
But then that's the thing, is like, okay, but if they have an in-between phase, they have to write rules with the in-between phase in mind.
Gotcha.
And so So like, conceivably AOS 3.0 will have cleaned up all the other armies that weren't written with that in mind. But in the meantime, you would have the buff phase. So like, shield tilt, right? Sequiturs. There is no reason someone currently holding a shield, modeled to currently be holding a shield, shouldn't have their shield ready when your always strikes first, always strikes last shenanigans happen. There's kind of like no reason in my mind. And then from there, buff phases should almost be like an ante in poker. You just like cancel each other out and move on. So you check for the stats in the buff phase. It always strikes first. It always strikes last. Cancels out. Moves on. Like, so you just look at the buff phase. You do some quick comparisons, and then you move into combat. That's my proposed solution.
That would be very interesting.
I don't know that it's the best solution. There are a lot smarter people than me, but just I think the thing that keeps bothering me about the always strikes first and always strikes last is it kind of doesn't pass the smell test. I have this guy who's got an aura. This verisimilitude, this appearance of truth. Like, I have a guy who has a frost aura, and that's why you can't attack first, and it takes you a while to hit him. And then I have this person that I have this high tide move in across the table. And so, like, that's why all your guys are attacking first. And then I have just this guy who yawned and decided to do it later. You know, he's just like, he decided to do it in the combat phase. So, like, this huge tide just stopped. Like, there's
Right.
just a disconnect between how these things feel like they should play and how they're playing.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
I think they need to...
It doesn't feel right.
Again,
And when it doesn't feel right, that's when it starts to really... Like, again, the locus of diversion, the numbers may have been off on how it happened, but just saying, like, you get to strike last against the thing because you're lulled in to this locus of diversion, fine. Like, that made sense. It was just, like, where the numbers came out were off, and the nature of how the activation wars themselves have been implemented, because they've been implemented inconsistent. And inconsistency is the biggest problem with rules. If a rule is powerful or pushed or whatever, if it's a +1 to hit versus a +2 to hit, everyone in the entire world has a +1 to hit. You never see +2s to hit. Suddenly you see something with a +2 to hit. You don't go, oh, you're like, okay, that's way more powerful than my +1 to hit, but you don't go, what the fuck? This has never made sense. You go, oh, it's like the +1, but it's +2. It makes sense. It's consistent. Like...
Yep. So actually, speaking of consistency, and this is going to be, of all the things we've talked about, this is such a minor quibble, but I just want to bring it up because I don't know if people empathize with me on this stuff or not. But a few days ago, I was inputting all the new KO war scrolls that have come up. I'm getting them ready for AOS Reminders right now. Because I'm waiting for the book to come out. And by the way, Games Workshop, if you're listening, I would love to get early books. Anyways, so I'm putting in all the KO stuff. I've got someone else doing Zinch, which is awesome. And I get to the sky hook effect. Yeah, the sky hook. Okay. And like 3 or 4 units have a sky hook for KO. But one of them has a heavy sky hook. One of them has a great sky hook. One of them has a sky hook. And I think one of them has like another variation. They all have the exact same rules wording. And for me, I realize everyone's like, who cares? I do. Because when I'm trying to merge these things, so I'm trying to give you guys, on AOS Reminders, I'm trying to give you the shortest printout possible. So when I find rules like this that have like a similarity, I merge them. So these are all classified as just skyhook. I took out the great and heavy and like honorable or whatever. But little things like that makes me feel like sometimes they're not looking at the rules closely enough before they push them out to say, how can we streamline this? How can we, these all give +1. Why can't we consolidate? I don't know. I just feel like every time I read a book from them, I'm like, I wish you'd done one more polishing run through it. And that's not to hate, by the way, because it's not like everything I do is perfect. I do plenty of dumb things with things that I put out to other people, but because I know I keep talking about reminders, but whatever.
No. Keep your brand going, man.
If Reminders has a problem and you tell me, I can fix it for you. Like I'll fix it. It takes me 10 minutes to fix it and push it out to the world. So not only have I fixed it for you, I fixed it for the world, and everyone's on the same version using the same thing. Games Workshop has this struggle where if they put out a problem, it seems to take months for them to fix it. And not only does it take a while to fix, people don't know about the fixes. Like you've mentioned many times, like people don't know about the facts or erratas, or even when they do, they forget about them because, it's really tempting to say like, all my rules are in here. Like this is my rule.
I just want to pick up my book and read it. Yeah.
Right. But they're not. So even like, even my book is already out of date. Yep. They don't offer digital. When you buy do physical book, you don't get a copy of the digital one, which by the way, I think is a travesty. Here we go down another tangent. I can't believe you don't get a digital book with your physical book. The number one problem,
QVC coded in or whatever, or when you just beep and you scan it,
right?
I get my digital copy.
The number one problem with this game is getting people into it. Once you're in, you're hooked. Everyone here can attest that. Everyone loves Warhammer that gets into it. But if you're constantly getting rules wrong, or like in the case of Seraphon, people on Reddit will post like, how do I get started with Seraphon? And the answer is like, I don't know if you need to buy the Battle Tome. To be totally honest, I think every single war scroll in there is outdated. Every single ability, everything in there is outdated. and there's not a new one. It's all so you have to go through a bunch of PDFs online and assemble your own model of understanding of it's dumb.
Well, this is why Azir is one of the best things ever, because, like, I know that I had to do a little bit of a take on the battle tomes. I don't. Maybe this is because I've accepted it, but like I don't mind that I go in buying my battle tome knowing it's going to be wrong. Does that make sense? Like I go in, I know it's going to be wrong, but I want it for my shelf, and then I just like look at Azir anyway.
Yeah.
You're not wrong about the digital thing. I think there's a more ideal version of a more ideal integration of the digital property with the physical property. I think that's just one of the main. I think that's one of the main gripes I have as someone who's looks at things from like a very video gamey online, like all those standpoints that I kind of come into things with those biases I have. Like I Vince had this on one of his shows, and his proposal was release the digital copy first, like, and then release the print copy on like a delay, and then if you bought your digital copy, they ship you the physical copy when it goes to print with the correct rules. Because you're gonna get you're gonna get digital copy version 1, digital copy 2, digital copy 3, patched all the way up until like it's current and we haven't had to FAQ it, and then you get shipped a physical copy. That was the proposal I had heard. Not that it was his proposal, that was the proposal I had heard on that show. And I really liked that. Now I don't know if that's like the most practical sense, but I know that releasing a digital product is virtually instant, provided you have done all the legwork. You just like you click
essentially
the button, you click the button and then it goes live. Printing something takes a lot longer. This is one of the struggles with print. Like print it takes a lot longer. Those rules, I think they've already caught them before it even goes to print. You know, like they've probably already caught the rules, or not before it goes to print, before the time you receive your codex, your battle tome, your physical copy. They already know about the rule problem in the FAQ. That thing's already in the pipelines to get changed. So, like, I think it's just a order of operations there. They need to, like, have some activation wars with when they release the battle tome.
Roll a locust for the physical book.
Roll a locust for the... So I think that's one of those things that they could do. I don't have a huge problem in the end because you do get your War Scrolls for free. You do not have to buy the book. There's nothing...
So the War Scrolls, that's a thing, okay? If you Google, I'm going to do it right now, and hopefully I'm not wrong. But I remember I was at a game, and I had a Balewind Vortex, and I forgot the rules for it. And I didn't have, like, a War Scroll card or anything. And so I Googled Balewind Vortex War Scroll. And I think, is this the overpowered? I might have pulled up the overpowered one right now. 1 to save rolls, cast an additional spell, add 6 inches. This might be right. It might not be. But I know that at the time, a few months ago, when I pulled it up, the first result on Google, it was wrong.
Okay.
Which is like, come on, guys. Just consolidate your library, make it a little easier.
Yeah, but that's Google, man. Like the Google algorithm's going off of some other stuff.
But they can take that document down if it's out of date.
Okay.
And so it's just, as someone who, like, I'm not a steward of the rules, but I do rely on finding the correct rules. It frustrates me that they don't seem to put the effort into maintaining the rules library that I would like them to. And I realize I'm getting really hot takey here, and I'm sorry to anyone from GW that hears it. But
no, you're allowed your perspective. I think that would be, like, Google is Google, man. But like the GW site should be held to that standard. The GW site, and for the most part, when the book is live and the models have launched, we have these weird like delayed rollouts. But when it is live, which is, for me, it's when the FAQ has actually happened, that's when it's really live, for really real. You get your products early because it's like a pre-release. When the FAQ comes out, that is when that army is live to me. I've had to realign my perspective to justify it, and I do admit that. But, like, I was doing shows on Ossiarch Bone Reapers for, like, an entire month solid, right, at the beginning of RantCast. And people would, like, flip out over a couple of... Like, Harvester. Everyone was mad at Harvester. You know, we have to have an honest Wargamer. Whole episode to get devoted to how Harvester is busted. Yada, yada. Oh, Harvester.
Right.
And I'm just sitting here like, has the FAQ come out? I'm not even going to discuss Harvester until it does, because I don't think it's staying. Lo and behold, FAQ comes out a couple weeks later. Harvester has changed the way we thought it would be. You don't get 2 models back for everyone that dies, because that would have been dumb anyway. Like, fine. Like, it's... So, I had to realign my perspective. Like, and that's a me thing, right? Like, obviously there's a certain degree of accountability. You release the thing, it should be the thing. But, for me, it's not the thing until that FAQ comes out. This is why I like the digital first approach. We, as nerds, we really want our physical thing. But if we want our physical thing to be accurate, it's going to have to come out on a delay. If we want it fast, then it's going to be inaccurate. And so, like, that, you have to balance which one of those two is more important to you.
Right. And so the balance basically is allow physical purchasers to get the digital book. Yeah, because that fixes the problem very tidily.
Yeah, one way or another. And here we go. I like this.
I like this too, by the King of Heretics.
Yeah, King of Heretics is teeing off. I liked what Coach said here. He said he'd like to see a single-time redeem code for the digital book.
Yep.
So, like, increase the price slightly of the physical if you get both. Like, that seems legit. I'm fine with that. Like, I will pay extra money for the correct thing. I paid a lot of money to get Vok Mortian, and I'm never going to use him on the list because I wanted the thing. Games Workshop, your fans want the stuff. We just want a little better. Like, I don't think that's unreasonable. We will give you money. We'll throw money at it. I'm not. I
like this take by King of Heretics that we might be taking. Well, I take issue with it, but I also really appreciate it. I feel like we as a community might have beefed it because we get the new books and we base them on power level, and we don't know what's coming next. So something that comes out that seems OP now maybe wasn't in the context of like GW producing 6 months down the line. That's fair. However, there are still human beings who are trying to win and compete and play games
in real time.
In real time, and it's not fair to them to say, "Oh, hold on, don't worry, Zinch is coming out with some crazy shit in like 8 months, and it'll fix it." Like it's, I totally get it, and I agree with it on the one hand, but because people are playing the game, you know, that's a tough one.
Well, I mean, there's a hobby delay too, which is the thing. And this, I don't have a right answer for this. I'm just kind of talking in general.
Memes are the right answer. Memes always work.
I just brought up my meme real quick here. But I do think you got to have, like, there's a point where you can alter your expectations and be a little bit happier with what's going on. Like I said, the first one is FAQs. Like, when a tome comes out, that's not how the book is going to be. Like, that's the first one. It has never been that way in my time with Age of Sigmar. The book you get is not going to be the read of the book in, like, literally 2 weeks. Right. Now, we can demand it be better. Fine. Absolutely. I want my free digital copy, too, for my physical book. I'm throwing money at you, and it costs you nothing to just click the button beyond some server space for infinite people to download a copy of the thing. Like, we can just, it's a perfect replica of the one file, and we just click it, and then it happens. Like, whatever. We can expect better of that. But, like, you can also, like, realize that, like, they haven't changed that one thing in a long time. You know, this is like, if you keep expecting them to change that one thing, at some point, is it worth your grief? Still down the line. And I'm not trying to be an apologist here. I just mean in the specific case of the FAQ thing. Like, that one is just, you switch your perspective slightly. Just go, the book's not live until the FAQ is out. I got a pre-release. I went and... Fucking nerds love handing Steam money for fucking alpha tests now. It's the thing I'm the angriest about in the world. Is you're paying for an incomplete game. I hate it so much. Like, fucking Minecraft was in alpha, paid alpha, for several years.
I like Minecraft, so I can't hate on that.
I'm so mad about it, though. It's the thing I hate the most, is these fucking early access games that just are taking over. So I'm paying you for an incomplete game that might be good down the line or not, but you've already made money off of me. I hate it so much.
So like, I will gently disagree with that.
I know. And see, and I'll let you in a moment.
Go for it.
But, like, when you buy the book for an Age of Sigmar army, it's it's early access. When you like, because the FAQ is not out yet, it's not live. And that's how I've started to look at it. And like, I have paid for one early access game in my life. I've kickstarted a handful of things because I just, this notion that like paying for something before it's out yet just bothers me. Mainly with the AAA industry, the reason I hate that specifically is because like Call of Duty doesn't need my fucking money to kickstart their game. Like, they don't need it. And by the way, if I've paid for early access in good faith, they're already making the sequel to the game. I've already paid for the sequel, the way they've baked it. And that's what kind of bothers me. Now, I make a reservation. I make an exception for a Games Workshop. Because I already know, going into my Ossiarch Bone Reaper's purchase, whether I'm paying for early access or not, that I'm gonna fucking love them. Because I already love the models, I already love the lore, I'm already invested. The minute something doesn't pass that threshold for me, I get angry about it. And that's where I'm at. I think that it's more of a, because there's a physical product, it's difficult to kind of wrap your head around. But if you start to just think about it like, this is the physical product's reaction to an early access era.
Right. But so the problem is, the problem that I have with that is that a physical product does not lend itself to the early access model, because early access can be updated and patched, and and the change goes live. Yep. But so that's tough, and like you said, you don't like the AAA studios doing
exploiting the early access. That they don't need it.
Is Games Workshop a AAA studio?
Boy, I do think they're a multi-billion-dollar corporation at this point, right? GW.
I think multi-million.
I think it's billion when you count their licensing rights for making video games and stuff like that.
Perhaps. Good for them if that's the case. But
like the models might be only multi-million from the actual physical product, and Age of Sigmar certainly probably doesn't generate billions of income. But the IP and licensing rights for like comics and 40K, for instance, probably makes Games Workshop a multi-billion-dollar industry just on licensing rights alone.
So the Honest Wargamer and LLV, wow, we got some stars in chat.
Oh boy.
I don't think either of you understand how backwards GW is. I think I'm starting to understand, but I really see the whole thing is Meph. May I call you Meph?
Yeah, you can call me Mephisto or Andrew or yeah, whatever, man. Call me Meph if you want.
Here's the thing. The whole conversation we just had about the physical books and the AAA about and early access, it would all be resolved if they gave you the digital download for free, because that would faithfully represent, hey, here's a physical product. We're getting it out the door. You're going to love it. It's going to go on your bookshelf. By the way, we do update things. We update things. So here's the digital version. And boom, like problem solved. No one needs to worry. I know that they would make a little less money. But I think their players would enjoy it a lot. A whole lot. And it's like, if you launch Dota, I played a lot of Dota in the past, or League of Legends or something, you know that you're not going to play against someone who has like the 2 patches ago version of a hero, because that would be very unfair and weird.
Yes. And
that's the beauty of digital distribution, but physical versions don't get this luxury. So I think it's fair to say like GW needs to fix this, basically.
Yeah.
I'm
trying to catch up with chat here.
There's a lot of chatting going on. LLV, I shouted out your stats earlier, by the way. Thank you for doing all that work. It's a ton of work, and you are a hero for doing it.
Well, I think, and the community demanded, like, we get all our armies updated, right? And in a more ideal, like, scenario, I'm just kind of responding here to a chat. In a more ideal scenario, they would have had all the armies updated going into 2.0. Halo and I constantly talk about it. It's like, if D&D 6th edition came out and they only released 2 classes and told you to play with all the classes from 5th edition apart from those 2, you'd have a bad time. You know, like it's ideally, right? But like, I have to not hate something on the more ideal version because you could have been better. I'm going to be disappointed with the thing that's already kind of good. Right? Like that feels like a soft take to me. Like you guys could have been better. I mean, you're good, but you could have been better. And like it's fair to expect better. More than fair. We should always expect better. Always. You don't owe, rather, Games Workshop isn't entitled to my money or your money or anybody's money in this world. And the minute they act like that, there should be some clap back on that. That's not okay for a company that is in the multi-billion, again, with licensing rights for 40K, I'm fairly certain they're multi-billion. Like a multi-billion-dollar company to just be like you owe us your dollars. Like, fuck that. I don't know you shit. But again, is the game terrible right now? Is it objectively a terrible game?
No.
No, okay. Like,
it's a great game.
Yeah, I mean, it is a great game, and so, like, there's... She gives any excuse to GW. I don't know, that's the problem of talking in hyperbole and metaphor LLV. There's just going to be some crossed wires.
The game is great, but the amount of work that it takes to arrive at the game in its current and updated fashion is very frustrating. And it feels like I just feel like GW could do a lot to streamline it and make it more approachable. I know that in the past I've had people come over and they look at my display case that's behind me and they're like, "Damn, dude, Warhammer looks awesome." And I'm always like, "Yeah, it is. Like, what's your thoughts on reading books?" Because like there's a big hurdle to get into this game.
Yeah.
And then I can't even tell them about the facts and erratas because that's like I'm not going to try to turn them off. So what I mean, and that AOS Reminders is great because I just give them like an updated sheet of rules and they're good to go. But it's rough, man. That initial hurdle, if they could just decrease the initial hurdle.
Right. And they do, there is like, I mean, with AOS Reminders, AOS Shorts, LLV stats, there's a lot of community members doing work that I feel like should sort of be inherent, you know? Like, why don't we have... I guess this is a little bit of a good with a bad. Like, why don't they just have these stats on these things? Or why don't they value them or whatever? And again, good with the bad, because they want the independent TOs to come up and make their own games and so on and so forth and write the rules pack the way you want. That one FAQ about terrain was like the funniest fucking snark I've ever seen. Better than the deadly as ever. It was, what's the TO say or something like that? Like, yeah. I was just like, I fucking lost my mind. I was laughing.
Our decision is no decision.
Our decision is ask your TO. I just fucking laughed for days.
Yeah.
And so like there's, like, how much do you want them to interfere with the game and how much do you want to be community driven? If they make an AOS Reminders in Azir, now you don't make AOS Reminders, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, where does that put you? Like if
more free time.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, more free time. But like we talked about some of the good that you've gained from doing that. If Rob, and I hope you're still in the chat there, buddy. If Rob doesn't have to like yell at Games Workshop every day, he doesn't have a show.
Right.
I love you, I love you, man. No, it's just like how much do we want them to interfere in the community versus not? I mean, that's like, I'm thinking about it actively. Like, I don't have the fucking answer. I don't know. If I had the answer, then I could, I don't know, profit, I guess. Like, how much do we want them to come into the community side of things? Like, meta. I think about Magic the Gathering and Wizards of the Coast all the time. Wizards of the Coast ran worse tournaments than Star City Games. Star City's games ran tournaments because they loved the community and wanted to run games for the community and didn't think Wizards of the Coast was doing a great job. Wizards of the Coast ran tournaments to turn a profit and advertise for Magic the Gathering more. Like, where do we want to draw that line as a community? How much GW support do we want? At least the prerequisites of giving me a book that's printed correctly, correct? Like, we can agree upon that. Why isn't there a digital update of my book that has the right rules written in it? That's free. Copy, Control-C, Control-V. The book is updated. I don't know why. Like, I feel like that's a gimme. Like,
yeah.
Getting a digital copy with your book, again, I'd pay a little bit more for a digital exclusive version, but to make me pay twice for my OBR book so that I have it in my Azir app as well, which I have done because I'm a fucking shill, but like, like, do you have to do that? Like, I don't think they do. Again, multi-billion dollars. Like, you don't need to do that. You could do the better, more responsible thing.
Yeah. And so I wouldn't want to see them get crazy involved with the community, because the risk of a company like GW, when they try to shape the community, is they could drive out people who are creating content. Like if they appoint a lore master and we lose 2+ tough, it doesn't benefit anyone. We don't need a corporate lore master. The only thing I'm looking for them is
That's a great take, by the way.
Amazing models and good rule set. And I feel like, and by the way, to be totally honest, I think that the rules are getting better and better and better. I've read every single battle tome, and you can read a battle tome and you get a feel. You're like, this is like a late 2018 battle tome, or like this is a new one, because the rules are getting better and better and more defined and more clear. And they still have the occasional misstep, whatever, but like they're actually doing a really good job with battle tomes now. And now I wish they would just turn their attention to making the rest of the game really approachable. Azir is awesome. Little things that need to be cleaned up. AOS coach says GW probably could have stopped AOS Reminders if they want to. Yeah, they totally could have, and I'm glad that they didn't. And I have a feeling that the old Warhammer Fantasy Battles GW would have. Yeah. So I think we are seeing a new attitude from them.
And how much? And this is man, here's some like crazy social questions here. But like, how much is the like still them fighting the old infrastructure, right? So Round Bottom, Roundtree, whatever the heck his name is, came in as the new CEO. A bunch changed. Like, so like you can have a new police commissioner come in, but the old infrastructure is still there. A lot of the same corruption will still be there. You know?
Right.
Like, and I'm not saying they're fucking corrupt. That's not the take. Please don't take that. Don't say.
That's
don't,
literally like, all I'm taking from this.
Don't go onto Twitter and like RantCast said that GW is as corrupt as police are. Or something. Don't fucking do that. No, but like the point is like the infrastructure and the old guard, remnants of that must still be in that company, right?
Yeah.
Like they've I don't know. I don't pretend to be an AOS insider or a GW insider. I don't playtest stuff. I don't know a single person who gets an early release that tells me about it. I don't have any of that fucking information. I wouldn't want it, honestly. I draw a lot of joy from speculating stuff and being one of the people sitting on the couch enjoying the game. You know, like, I don't want to be in the game. I want to be with you sitting on the couch watching it. Like, that's where I sit. But, like, I have to wonder if, like, how they roll out models and how they advertise. And some of these old guard things are just a product of the infrastructure. And again, I don't know, but I wonder. And have they burned it down enough to build up a better, awesome game or not? Like, I don't know. They're trending in the right direction. Like, this game is better now than it was before. I mean, I'm really sweating about some Tzeentch stuff, and I feel for all my KO friends who are just not happy with that book. I'm like, I don't have, like, I gotta wait a little bit and, like, read more and play some games, and then I'll have a more informed opinion. But, like, my early reads are kind of bad, so we're starting out the year with two what I might consider outliers for a great trend, and then now can Pointy Elves save it? Like, I don't have the take. I just know that I play a game that I love, and that my big annoyances that could grow into huge annoyances if I allowed them to aren't worth losing fucking sleep over, because I know Games Workshop isn't going to listen to me, even if I hate their game. And if I hate their game, why would I still play it? I'll go play a different game. Like,
so, I want to respond to some chat real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
King of Heretics, I gotta disagree. I don't think they're purposely making janky rules so they can print easy books. I think that things just slip through. Everyone's human. They can't foresee everything. Obviously, it could be a little better, but I don't see the conspiracy there. People are gonna buy their books anyways. They don't need to make janky rules. Rocco asks, what book do we think is the new baseline of a good book? Everyone used to say Stormcast. I think Cities of Sigmar or Ogres, which both came out. They have. Okay, fair enough, but
there's so much dead weight in it, and
there is. But if Yeah, if you're trying to aim
And
for like
the other thing,
list.
I don't. No. There's competitive lists in it, which is a success. There's a diversity of builds, which is a success, and there's some interesting rules, which is a success. But there's actually a lot of dead rules in that book. There's so many generic, meaningless rules. The locking you into a realm ruined innovation of me making my own city, and I'll never forgive them for that. But the cardinal sin is playing with other armies' stuff better. And that will always piss me off. I don't like the Grimghast. They did the Grimghast Reaper thing all over again. Where Grimghast Reapers were better in Legion of Nagash than they were in Night Haunt. It's that book. It's like that is one of the cardinal sins of book design, is the best way to play your book, or the best way to play someone else's book, is to like bring that shit in. And so like that, I don't think that's good. And Khorne, I don't think go watch the 7-hour marathon for why I didn't think Khorne was a good book. But beyond disagreeing, what is the baseline is a worthy question.
I like Maw Tribes a lot. Because I know that their win rate is a little suboptimal, but there's a lot of fun things you can extract out of that book, and I like that they merged the two factions and did it right. I think that that's a good AOS book. Maybe it's not the perfect baseline, but like that's a good book. Yeah. Ironjawz. When I was reading the rules for the War Clans, I was so tempted to take Ironjawz. I don't like painting armor, so I ended up not doing it. But yeah, they have fun rules, good rules. I don't think they're super OP or anything. Mm-hmm. I know you don't like Cities of Sigmar, but I like that it let a lot of people get models off the shelf.
I don't like the book. Two important distinctions.
But
like,
it let people get models off the shelf.
I'm the guy who said that Cities of Sigmar was the most important book of the year. Like, there's two different takes. It can be a good army and a bad book, you know. Yeah. Like LON had great armies. It was a terrible book. Like I just see it as it's LON 2.0 to me. It's made some of the same mistakes all over again.
And one thing they have to be careful about is that like when they experiment with allowing you to take units from other armies, I think they do tend to make those units too powerful. Mm-hmm. And that makes sense because it's hard to design something that's powerful over here and powerful over here, but not too powerful. Mm-hmm. And they really need to watch it. If that's going to be a trend going forward, I think they need to watch it. It's just kind of just watch it. That's all I'm saying. Because I can see how it could get out of hand.
Yeah, I mean, I fundamentally don't like the thing from other book being good in my book or my book is better in your book. I fundamentally don't like that. But I don't think that it's the worst. Like, I don't think that it's just like absolutely the worst and it's irreprehensible and we can't like fix it as long as it's tempered. I just remember a game where, you know, like I said, Grimghast Reapers again. Like I'm still apprehensive because of that. Like I'm just like, Cities of Sigmar is still, from a hobby standpoint, one of the best releases because it does revitalize that. From approaching the game of Age of Sigmar, I think it's a really strong book. Building strong lists in it, by the way, isn't obvious. So I don't like people who said that was a thing. Like, which one's the best city right now, off the top of your head?
Oh, I think it's like. Oh, hold on. No, I have the stats for this. It's not. I think it's Hammer something.
Oh, you think it's Hammerhall? Is Hammerhall the best? Yeah, or is Hammerhall the most taken? Or is Hallowheart the best? Because the internet says Hallowheart's the best. Like, if you were to build a list right now, which city are you building to be the best city? Like, it's not. I mean, I don't think that is like building lists isn't the most obvious in that book if you're trying to be the best. It's really easy if you're just trying to make your city's army, though. So, like, there's a disconnect between the competitive versus narrative. I feel like when something is like easy competitive, we fucking shit on it. If it's easy narrative, personal narrative, we laud it as the best thing ever. Like, Hallowheart is the best.
All I know is when Cities of Sigmar came out and Ben Johnson on Twitter was rolling with like 6 steam tanks in a game, that's when I knew it was a good book.
Well, yeah.
That did it for me. That's all I needed. I don't know if he won or lost with them, but just looking at it, I was like, that's great. That's a great book.
Yeah. Well, and that's the meme list, right? And that's that like I want to play with the biggest, stupidest crap stuff. Like I really do. I want to play with the coolest models and the biggest stuff, and I think a book should incentivize that. But then like we have Slaanesh. The biggest, coolest model in Slaanesh was the Keeper of Secrets, and the best way to play it was 3 Keepers of Secrets. So like now people are mad because it was too pushed as well. Like where's the line? Now that they've dialed back and like on that army, conceivably. Hopefully the depravity changes are enough. I posit that their games will be swingier, but they'll have just as big of blowouts. Like they'll lose hard, win hard. They're a destruction army now, boys. Like here we are. But so like now the best way to build it is also like the most competitive way to build it. Like we're always I feel like we're always kind of moving the goalposts on what we think is acceptable as a community. Like Petrifex Elite is a Hagnar. Fine, cool. No one's had a take beyond that about that book for 3 fucking months.
I think because the rest of the book is honestly fine.
It's a great book, but because Petrifex Elite is in it, no one will give it the time of day. And I'm like...
and some of that is just like memeing on Twitter and stuff.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, no, I see your point because that's rough to deal with.
Like we live in this... We live in the internet age in... This is separate from GW now, by the way. We're on the community side of things.
Let's shit on the community.
Let's shit on the community. We've shit on GW. Let's shit on the community, and we're gonna round it. I've shit on Harry Potter tonight. We'll round it out real quick by shitting on people's hobby. Like let's just fuck it. We'll hit all the. We'll round all the bases. Like from a community side of things, we need to get better at tempering our expectations. And I'm not saying give GW a pass if your whole thing is like you don't like where they're going with the stuff. But we need to temper our expectations and remember the human element. And I just feel like that's getting buried in the fucking race to have hot takes and meme and blah, blah, blah. Memes are a lot of fun. I made one. You should go check it out. It's fucking fantastic. But like, but when you're like actually ruining other people's fun to just not give people an opportunity to play the game of Age of Sigmar, that's where it goes too far. The worst take I've ever seen is the I refuse to play against Skaven. Like it's still one of the like just I remember this and it just like reverberates in my head. I refuse to play against Skaven, they're too filthy. And I'm just like, really? Because like the guy with all of his storm vermins is just the worst. Doesn't even like he's got the screaming bell because he thinks it looks cool, you know, and like a couple gray seers and stuff. But like that list is just like that's where you draw the line, just all Skaven. We start to forget that people play these armies that...
they just like rats.
Yeah, they just like rats. You know, like, you just want to run your big, stupid crap. And I fucking will always respect somebody just wanting to run big, stupid crap. Right? Like, I just do it. Run the stuff you love. And that's where... Like, man, I'm struggling with myself right now with Tzeentch. Because... Man, didn't we already have this? This is my biggest problem with it. When am I okay when rules are kind of pushed and weird and too good? When they're pushed and weird and too good, but they're like pushing the envelopes of design. That's when I'm okay with it. Like, I look at Tzeentch and I'm just like, oh, change host again. They were already low-key pretty great. The time clock boss, just now, without a new book. They were already low-key excellent. And then like you've got this like, oh, look, they got better with their new book. So it's a little bit of the Slaanesh thing again, where, like, Tzeentch Mike was tearing it up with Slaanesh over, like, across the pond without a book. And I'm like, okay, they're already good. I looked at their Allegiance abilities just because I saw him placing in top 10s and stuff. I looked at them like, oh, these guys are already kind of good. If they get a new book, they're going to be really good.
Yep.
Change host, already really good. Already kind of a problem if you run into that list and don't know how to play against it. And it just got better. And the thing that's been haunting me is if the rule is good and pushes if the rule can be fucking bent to shit, but it pushes the envelope in a direction that gets us to rethink the rules and rethink our own armies and rethink design, then the wheel keeps turning. We have to innovate. We have to solve the problem. But like, they didn't push the envelope in a new way. They went back to a fucking year ago or 2 years ago for this one. That's what's been bothering me about Tzeentch. Like, with Slaanesh, I'm like, okay, right, oh, okay, we all just, we're hoping the Slaanesh menace is over. The thing that's been bothering me the most about Tzeentch, that I'm having trouble reconciling within myself, when I want to be positive about the community and the game, is that these guidelines I leave myself to, like, assess stuff, that I want people to play what they love. First and foremost, you should always get to play with your toys. Right? Always. So, like, now I'm like, okay, you should get to play with your toys. Person who's currently playing Change Host about to get better. And I'm like, yep, check. Okay, you should always get to play with your toys. So going forward, you get to play with your toys. And rules should push the envelope and be interesting. And I'm like, okay, rules are pushing the envelope, and it's okay to be too pushed or too bent, and the meta will adjust and all that. But the thing that just I keep coming back to is that I feel like they went back in time and just made it better. And they didn't do that for KO. KO doesn't get to play Clown Car again 2.0. You don't get Clown Car 2.0 anymore. That's gone. Beast Claw Raiders don't get Thunder Tusks again. Those are gone. Like, all these other armies that were a problem, Vanguard Wing isn't back again. Like, all these other armies that have been traditional boogeymen throughout the history of Age of Sigmar, like, they don't get to go back to their glory days, because we're pushing the envelope, we're pushing the meta, we're pushing new rules and design and space, and all that stuff is fine. I forgive you, Jervis, for making busted rules, because you were doing the thing I was trying to do with my player agency encounter in Dungeons and Dragons, right? And I can forgive it if I can see that innovation. But this isn't innovation. You're going back in time for this thing. And it's been just eating away at me, and this, like, trying to be positive, and I don't know how to reconcile it currently.
Some of it's tough, because, I mean, some things have been really... I don't want to harp on it, but, like, Petrifex, that's it. Petrifex is not an innovative rule set. It's +1 to your save and +1 to your win. It's not interesting.
The innovation in that army comes in the list build, in the unit types, the tightness.
OCR's great. I think that's a great book. But then, like, people complain about Petrifex, and it's like, yeah, that one shouldn't have gotten through. I mean, like, Tzeentch Destiny Dice is a sick mechanic and, like, very unique.
It's the it's the most golden. It's the original golden parachute. We thought Parachuter Court's Dragons double activating on you, even though you got the charge, was like a golden parachute. Destiny Dice are the original golden parachute. Like, if you're gonna get to be Tzeentch going forward, do you also need to have Destiny Dice? What about just rerolls?
No, that's so boring.
Is it?
I like the unique rules.
Fair enough.
I think it's cool. I think it's really cool. And yeah, it can be a little frustrating and, like, a little bit like, what? But I don't think it breaks the game or anything. It's like, that's Tzeentch, man. They're crazy. They can warp time and space to do what they want. But then, like, you look at Petrifex, it's like, why the fuck is this in the game? What are you talking about? So I don't know. I think that's the core frustration.
The part that falls down with Petrifex for me is that it gets to be offense and defense.
Yeah.
And that, like, on its surface usually is, like, just a bad design. Like, okay, you're the Roman Legion, the phalanx, you lift your shields and so on and so forth. I liked the fix I heard, and I want to get this trending. It's not my idea. I'm totally stealing it from somebody. They get the +1 rend if they have been charged. I like that, because then it's the idea of, like, they're still super defensive. They're lifting their shields, and then they're, like, spearing the cavalry as it comes in. That's how I reconcile the, like, having offense and defense from the like, sort of does the fluff and flavor work mind. Like if you're this, like, super elite, like, made out of dinosaur bones and god beasts army that's really defensive, then, like, by all means be defensive, because if I'm taking the charge, then I've, like, compromised some positioning and I'm, like, setting against it and so on and so forth, because the army itself isn't, like, super fast to get to the objectives. Like, 7-inch movement, I'm sorry everybody, hot take, not fast in the game of Age of Sigmar. 7-inch, and I can't guarantee a 6-inch run, and I can't guarantee a 6-inch run and then charge afterwards and then reroll the charge. That's where fast begins.
Yeah.
Like, if you've played Beasts of Chaos, you know what fast looks like, and fast this army is not. Like, just having 6-inch move elves in Phoenix Guard isn't fast. And they get to have an auto 6 run and reroll their charges. Like,
So LLV brings up a point which he believes it. I don't want to paraphrase this incorrectly. Basically, that it looks like what you believe, LLV, is that there's a breakdown between the designers designing, which is cool. They can be outlandish, but then the outlandish gets to the book, which actually I agree with, because designers should be able to push the constraints of the system. But so I know that like a lot of video games, like Dota and like competitive video games, they have a pool of professional players, like high level players, that they get the update to where they think it's ready, and then they ask the pros to play it. And I feel like that's what we need here, is like people who are on Team England or USA or whatever, like top tier players. They should have a once over, because some of the things that are released are like, they're so immediately called out by the community as like, oh well, that's no good. If we could have that additional layer of defense of like the community, the good representatives of the community, I think LLV would be a good one, and like any top tier player, that would be really interesting to me to bring them out. I know they have play testers, but clearly they're missing a couple things. So
I don't like. I remember how I did play testing, and I've been told that's not how they do play testing. So when I play tested for Wizards, and when I play tested for I did an independent video game firm that would play test video games and stuff like that. I know how we play tested, and we usually had like a list of things to play test, and like to make sure that these worked. But that's on the like the video game side of things. And then when we had like D&D, I can't go into it too much, but like usually you had some specific constraints for what you were testing in that game. So it could have been something like, I don't know, like you're testing levels 6 through 7 characters, and then you just like test 6 through, and you run modules for 6 through 7 characters or whatever. Like, I don't know if they're being like, maybe there's a breakdown of we don't know enough about it. So maybe the problem is there's no like visibility and accountability. Maybe that's the problem. We barely
it's been pointed out. I might be wrong. So
we barely know who writes the rules, right? Like
that's probably for the best.
Like, we barely know who writes the rules, like which person writes.
Yeah,
you have to like reverse engineer who writes what.
Well, but it's probably for the best we don't know, because otherwise we're gonna end up with like weird death threats over rules in a book. So it's probably good that they're shielded from the community at large.
Perhaps, but I don't know. I would like if I write an awesome fucking rule, I want people to know I wrote it. Personally, like I know every. So there's a book writer in Rift's Palladium Books. This is one of my favorite RPGs. His name is CJ Corella. CJ Corella has a reputation for writing a book called South America 2. So one of the token best power armors in the entire game of Rifts is something called a Glitter Boy. It has a cannon called a boom gun. It shoots such huge like flatchet rounds that it creates a sonic boom when it fires them. And like the boom is so deafening that people have penalties when it fires this huge gun. That does 3d6 times 10 plus 10 damage. This is supposed to be the peak golden age human technology. Rift South America 2 comes out, and CJ Corella writes handguns that do boom gun damage. No book has ever been printed that ridiculous since in the Rift. Well, okay, Naruni 2 came out, but never mind. Like, but no, people know CJ Corella wrote that fucking book. Like, there's an ownership of it, right? Like, CJ Corella doesn't write for Rifts anymore, to my knowledge. But like he had a run of like 4 or 5 books of just like, but like he put his name on it. And I feel like there's, as somebody who is a literal writer who has published stories that you can download. I'm not gonna like fucking self gloss and all that stuff. But I have published books. I want my name on stuff I write. I don't understand why there's not a like ownership taken over stuff like this.
That's fair, but I mean, I write software at work, and like my name's not in it. It's just a production of my company. So
I suppose.
Yeah.
The writer brain versus the programmer brain. I suppose. Yeah, fair enough.
By the way, for the people who arrived later, could you maybe move some things around on the screen for the AOS battle plans?
Oh yeah, what do we want? Oh,
maybe add another unit of like.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to add another unit. I'm going to add a 150 mil base because I got my buff hero here. And this is Bone Daddy's fluffer.
The fluffer. Yeah, that gets them into combat, you know.
Yeah,
they got to take it from there.
Yeah. All right, and then we're going to make Bone Daddy fluffer darker purple because purple is best color. And I'm going to put him over here. And you know what? I realized I made a little bit of a mistake, so I maybe need to set my screen a little better. I'm going to move this unit to set my screen better. Here we go.
Man, I'm so pumped to like get this more fully featured. I really. By the way, showing this tonight was like a last-minute decision. Darren and I have kept this pretty under wraps. And I messaged right after I talked to you about coming on the show tonight. I messaged him and I was like, "Man, can I show it?" There. And I think he's over. He's talking to. He's on some show tonight, and he's going to talk about it as well.
There you go.
So it's all coming. Priority Roll podcast.
So real quick, let's reset this. What are for people who are just now joining the show? What do I have sitting up in front of me? So let's reset this here, real quick.
So this is AOS Battle Plans. The name is TBD, but I like to name my things very literally, so that's probably the name. And basically, could you switch the scenario real fast just so they get an idea of like we've got.
I refuse to use total commitment because I'm not a monster, so I'm going to go back to Battle for the Pass.
Absolutely. So this is a super alpha look at something that I've been working on for the last week or week and a half, and the idea is it's going to help you plan out your deployment phase a lot better. Right, what you're seeing right now is very rough. It doesn't have all the features, but you can see like we got some rulers on the screen, a 9-inch ruler. Those blue circles are the objectives. You can lay down a max of I think 80 models per unit, and you can choose the base size. We've got different scenarios straight out of the GW books. Eventually, we're gonna have auras and buff overlays so that you can plan out your ideal deployment. One day, maybe this will have the same importing list functionality that AOS Reminders does. That's a real bitch to write. So I don't know. Maybe I'll just port it over, just copy paste.
Well, you gotta cross represent yourself, right?
Yeah.
So real quick feedback. Having the pre-alpha here, I don't like that I can't click and drag and highlight both my units at once and then move them. This is bothering.
Oh, very interesting. So like you want like a grouping.
Yeah, I'm trying to like click and drag because I want to move this deployment to screen 9 inches here and 9 inches here. But like now I have to like move this unit. Nope, sorry, I'm on the individual.
That's a really good point actually.
So I have to move this unit, and now I have to move this unit. Like I wanted to just like fucking drag the whole group.
Okay. Oh, I like that. Yeah, they should be stuck in a group together and move.
Yeah, I feel because I mean the way like buff heroes and auras is like really big part of your deployment, and so I want to be able to move that stuff together.
Thank you. That's really good feedback.
Yeah. See, can't you tell I used to get paid real and actual money to beta test stuff, and then all you losers drove me out of a job by fucking paying for alpha with early access. Why would they hire me to play test video games anymore when you fuckers are out there paying real money for early access? God damn it. And now we get to the heart of why I'm mad about early access. Because I used to do that for a living. No. And then you assholes had to pay for Minecraft alpha access.
I will always defend my Minecraft purchase. I will never not enjoy that.
You know what you did? Like, so I have like one of my old like for my Kotaku days when I was a Kotaku contributor. One of my takes was like, I've never seen a real adult human play Minecraft. I think only trolls. Like it's just trolls say on the internet. I've never seen a real adult human. So you need to send me live and actual footage, watermarked, so I know it's not tampered with, of you playing Minecraft and enjoying it.
Kotaku ran an article on one of my side projects a long time ago. That was
no. See, LLV my stance as a playtester was to break the thing. That's like I would never tell you something's fine as a playtester because then I haven't done my job. My job as a playtester was to break the system and tell you it didn't work. That's literally what I was supposed to do as a playtester. Like jump 1,000 times in this corner to see if I can jump through it. um, but again, I got paid money to do that. So like, what's the expectation here? Like, playtesters in AOS are basically glorified volunteers, right? I proposed a long time ago is they should get paid playtesters, because then there is accountability, right? Like, if you have a paycheck and you don't do well, then you don't get the paycheck, right? Like, that was my thought a long time ago. I don't know if I still have that thought, but that was my, like, proposed solution when the tirade against the playtesters came out. But again, that's from a perspective of, like, I did it for video games and a little bit for RPGs, because I just knew I happened to be in the know for a long enough period of time that, like, I was able to, like, be in the groups that got the little PDF packs and shit like that for some stuff. But now a lot of it's, like, playtesting tabletop gaming, which I can't, I've got an NDA right now, so I won't say, but, like, playtesting, and not for Games Workshop, by the way, no, but, like, it feels like it's become more of a, like, a passion project than a job. And I don't know if I've got a take on when you do something for passion versus when money's on the line. Because things like RantCast, I think, is a passion project, and it's pretty good, but it could be better, right? But that's because
it's perfect. It's perfect.
No, dude. It's not. No. I personally hold myself accountable right now, right? And because it's me. It's my ego on the line. But I'm in the public view. Everything I do is you will pan me in my own chat right now if my show is bad. You will give me down thumbs on YouTube. And it's not just like some nebulous term like podcast man said thing I disagree with. It's, Andrew, you're full of shit. And then you're like fucking at me on Twitter. Like, so like, even though this is a passion project, there is some accountability in it. You've got it too, man. You, like, people, yeah. When people do AOS Reminders, they have a problem. You're going to hear about it specifically and directly. And that plus the passion is going to drive you to do a better job. Yeah. I don't know if on the one hand, you mentioned shielding the rules writers from some of the vitriol of the internet. So I don't know if that's a practical solution for Games Workshop playtesters, because Games Workshop is a lot bigger than RantCast, and that means there's a lot more fans, and that means that there's a lot more fans that run the spectrum of personalities and shit they'll say online. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, this is gonna sound probably too mature for RantCast, but when you are a large corporation, you have a responsibility to your workers to shield them from like personal attacks.
Yeah.
And that was really adult of me to say.
We're just
I don't like that at all. I'm sorry. That was a cold take. I'm very sorry about that.
That isn't much pay. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I don't have a solution. Clearly there's some dissonance, but I do think the game's trending in a better direction than it's ever been. That is a hill I'll die on. If the game's bad, I won't play it. Like, I have so many games in my life. I wouldn't make a podcast because I hate the game or I think everything they do is wrong. I think a lot of what they've done is right. Slaanesh was a problem. Is it acceptable to allow them some delay in response in fixing things? Like, I asked that openly to LLV and anybody else who's in chat. Like, is it acceptable? We were talking about, like, how I've reserved myself with a battle tome. I buy the battle tome as a collector because I'm enthusiastic and I already know I want that army. And so, like,
yeah.
But I don't go on and get mad about the rules yet because I know that those aren't the rules yet. I know the errata's coming. You know, like, I just know. So, like, that delay feels reasonable to me because I paid for early access for my book. But, like, where is it not acceptable? And I think that's up to, like, anyone watching. But, like, I don't know. It's just, like, I don't have the answers. Again, if you guys got them, leave a comment and tell me all the answers so I can steal them and make them my own answers. But
I don't know. I think I don't know. It's so hard to talk about this game because there's so many different levels of player that it's like
we're trying. That's what we're trying to do. And at its core, we'll run it all the way back. AOS Reminders tries to bring all the players, whether you're narrative, competitive minded, if you're at a tournament, if you're at the LGS, you're all on the same page with something like AOS Reminders, right? And I don't know that we'll ever be on the same page as AOS gamers because it is such a three-dimensional game. But, like, we can work to have a more common ground between each other. The narrative, like, funny as it is to talk about the keto take with what's that bad Warhammer Fantasy game that, the Ninth Age. I can make fun of the Ninth Age and meme on it and stuff, but if, like, you come over and you're a Ninth Age player, and, like, you love Ninth Age, it's your favorite thing ever, but you also play Age of Sigmar, I'm not going to actually shit on you, because of the human element. I know that you're just a person who wants to play games. And I think that remembering we all want this game to be a good game is the first step to even beginning to have a conversation. We might disagree on what we think could make the game better, but that's the importance of having these conversations. Oh boy, LLV's got my emotes now. He's got a hold of the power. Be sure, everybody, to just go spam the shit out of Rob with all of my emotes. Give him all the views, but just spam my emotes in his shit.
Rob, by the way, I've been really liking the daily shows. Those are great.
Yeah,
Keep those up.
Yeah, it's a really good format. More content is always better. So, to wit, I have a 7-hour RantCast. Go watch it. Wait, longer RantCasts are always better, right? No,
yeah.
Never again will I do a 7-hour show. Oh, here we go.
By the way, have you seen the new feature on AOS Reminders, the play and edit toggle? I don't know if many people have explored.
I see the edit and play toggle.
It just hit it real quick.
Okay, yeah. So now you're showing me what my sheet's gonna look like.
Yeah.
When I print it off.
Yeah, real simple. And
have you noticed my dark theme, by the way?
I do, and I love it.
Yeah. My Why do I still have a subscribe button? Because I'm not logged in.
You're not logged in.
Hang on. Oh,
so I let you keep your dark theme even though your login has timed out. You keep the dark theme so that it doesn't hurt your eyes.
Because that's a subscriber feature, right? Because I'm a subscriber. And I'm better than you all because I subscribe to AOS Reminders.
That's an actual fact.
Dark theme is a subscriber only thing. Like, who? Suck it.
So I will take a second here.
By the way, this is my favorite subscriber feature because dark mode is like how I live my life. I'm an insomniac. Man.
I love dark mode. It's honestly my favorite feature. It shouldn't be because there are more impressive things. But by the way, I would like to take this moment to shill. I just want to shill a little bit.
Yeah,
if you like AOS Reminders or if you like what I'm doing on Battle Plans, please subscribe to AOS Reminders, or there's a donate button if you scroll down to the bottom. It genuinely it makes me very motivated and happy. That's it. I just wanted to shill for just 1 second.
No, by all means, you do it basically for free. So people should use the product. It's a good one. And then subscribe. And that's the thing is that you subscribe to support him. He's not asking that you subscribe him. You get, he's asking that you subscribe him, but you get to use the product without subscribing. You can download your stuff and Parity increases because you have all your rules on the page and you get to learn and practice better and memorize better. When someone questions you at the table, is that how that works? You flip the sheet around, they look at it instead of you going through 4 books and wasting their time. It's one sheet of paper. But if you love the product, then you subscribe and you support the product to make sure, because he is doing it on his own time for free. So again, this is it's awesome. Like, it's awesome that we have a community that does this stuff because they love this game this much. Also, LLV stats, do you have, like, a GoFundMe or something? Like...
Yeah, how can people contribute to LLV?
Yeah, I've never seen you ever say how to be... Yeah. But
yeah,
feel free to link in...
Shout out to... Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Shout out to LLV. Feel free to, like, drop your info in the links there, buddy. Or in chat there. Too old.
I would like to shout out real quick just some of the contributors to AOS Reminders.
Go ahead. Can you go in personal depth about them so I can run to the
yeah, so you can follow along a little bit.
Yeah.
This is so scary because, like, if I leave people out, they're gonna think I hate them. And there's 20 people. I'm not gonna do a 20-person rundown, but Rogue Michael did the edit and play toggle that you see in front of you. You'll notice that if you refresh the page, like if you pick a bunch of units and stuff and you refresh, they'll all stay there. He did that. He came into the project knowing no React. React is the thing that we use to render the web page. He didn't know anything about it, and over the last few months, he's like grown and he's contributing different features. He's doing things I've never thought of. So shout out to Rogue Michael, Thundergore, Zurhark, Burial the Painter, who I can't remember his other name right now, but that's his Discord alias. They all, John Schramm, these guys are the people that are bringing you the rules. They're the ones who get the battle tomes, and they're like putting these rules in by hand. They're doing really hard work. I only do some of the rules now. Like I check them all over before they go out to the public, but I only do some of them. I probably put in half the armies now, and the other half is people who are doing, they don't get subscriber money, they don't get donation money, they're just doing this because they love AOS and they love making this happen. So John Schramm, Thundergore, Zurhark, Burial the Painter, everyone else who's contributed, I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for working with me and working for the community. And they don't get all the recognition, they don't get to go on podcasts, but they're just as valuable as I am to this effort.
Wow, well said. That was perfect. I totally did just walk away from the camera.
No, it's all right. It was good. That way I could just do my pitch.
Yeah, no, it was good. No, everyone knows what this is. This is the I say it's like the Letterman of AOS shows, because like David Letterman, like he wasn't concerned about the game of like, you have a movie coming out, blah, blah, blah. You just do that thing and then you just had a conversation. And that's what I'm all about. And just while we're being shills, Rob invited me on his new weekly format show, and I'm just waiting to hear a date, man. But I want you to know that I invited him on RantCast back in like fucking October when I was a nobody. So, I'm still a nobody, but I'm a nobody who's done 30 episodes of a show now. 29.
I'm honored to be in 29, man. That's 29. A ton of shows, dude. I remember 1 and 2 and 3. Like
one. Fun fact: 1 actually isn't available on any of the podcast platforms. You cannot listen to RantCast 1 on like Spotify.
Are you getting this up on Podbean, by the way?
Yeah, it's up on Podbean.
Okay,
yeah.
Good.
No, I use Anchor, and then Anchor because they don't have like hosting fees, and they don't limit my shit yet. They might in the future. But I use Anchor first of all, and then it exports to Podbean, Spotify, all of them. Well, yeah, I mean, here's it. I'll just...
By the way, who's your guest for the Dirty 30?
The Dirty 30? It's going to be Brendan Melnick. We're talking some list science, yo. So, yeah, it goes up to, like, Radio Republic, Podbean, Google Podcasts, CastBox, Breaker.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know you could do this.
Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn. Got the RSS feed. I'm also available on like 2 Euro ones that are like aren't featured on Anchor because Anchor doesn't even know what the fuck they are. So I upload to Anchor, and then Anchor like sends out my monkeys to the world like the Wicked Witch of the West, you know? Like they just go.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I am available in raw audio. By all means, download me and listen to me on your commute. Just put me in your ears, and or while you're painting or whatever. But catching it live is a different show. I think anyone in chat gang can attest.
And you have such a crazy chat gang too that it is different. It is different to catch it live and be there for the jokes.
Yeah,
so.
the jokes, the memes. There's a show within a show when you're in chat gang. So you get to have your own little show on the side while I have my show. And I do need a tier 3 emote, it's true. Oh, god damn you, Soren. So Soren just tier 3 subbed. Thank you, buddy. He is the mad lad. He is I think he just like, yeah. So he's got all the he's thrown out some gift subs tonight. And he just tier 3 subs, so thank you so much. And now I have to make Frank make another emote. Poor Frank, he just got his life back and everything.
I love you, LLV. Don't get too worked up. You got it.
LLV, by the way, we're just trying to hammer out when he can come on so he can bring all this hatred onto my show. And then, like, we could play good cop, bad cop. I'll be good cop, he'll be bad cop. He can have all the hot takes, and then I'll be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Here's your glass of water, community. It'll be great. Can I get you a cup of coffee? Perhaps some bubble gum. You take it away, LLV.
So I am gonna have to hop off soon.
Yeah,
so I want to do sort of my closing bit.
Yep.
First of all, on just a personal note, thank you to my girlfriend Amanda. She has she doesn't give a fuck about Warhammer, and she has watched me work on this every single night for the last 7 months. So she also did that color scheme for Dark Mode, and she actually helps me with all my UI decisions. So thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Mephisto, for having me on, because you are awesome, and this was fun.
Don't thank me. Don't you dare.
Thank you, Chat Gang. Chat Gang was awesome tonight, as always. I'm always in the Chat Gang. It was awesome to like have the Chat Gang go at me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, they took a run at you tonight, man. They really busted your chops. Like,
yeah, well, not
they all
recognized.
They put you through. They put you through the fire. Like, you had to like take the questions. And honestly, you like, mega props, man. You were like, hey, hold up, Meth. I gotta read Chat Gang. And I'm like, no guest has ever truly done that like so seamlessly as you. So like, props, man. Like, way to go. Like, but that's what happens when you're one of us, and then you are one of the Chat Gang, and then you ascend.
I raised my brothers up. That's all I can say.
That's what it is. Yeah.
And just thank you to the whole community. AOS community is awesome. I'll be at Adepticon. Come see me, and I will give you stickers or a 3-inch ruler or a 3-inch whatever. And
you need to hook me up with some swag again. Like, I'll throw money at you. That's fine. But you need to hook me up with some swag so I can get some stuff to like people at PACA, and then I think and then it's just Adepticon is after PACA. So like, I gotta get some swag to people at PACA in case they don't know the word of the reminders.
Spread the word. I will get you a link to some swag and try to get I got a guy on Etsy who's doing some rulers. I'll send you a link.
I saw that. Those are pretty cool.
Yeah. None of that money goes to me. It just goes to him, but I think it's worthwhile. They're really cool rulers. I have a bunch of them. And look for AOS battle plans, release date TBD, but soonish. And it's going to be the same deal. It's going to be open source. Feel free to contribute if you have the skills. If not, feel free to hurl insults at me about what needs to be better, and we will just it's going to be AOS Reminders all over again. We're just going to keep helping the community and helping things grow, and I'll get a little bit better at programming along the way. So that's my goal.
You're doing honestly, man, you're doing a great job already. Like, you really are. And you've had some feedback moments, you've had some struggles, like, obviously, like we all do when we make something for a community on our own, under our own, the labors of our own passion. I know LLV, like, the difference between like now versus when LLV was first trying to compile stats, like, people didn't want to give him stats, right? And not receptive. And like, you've had some like, well, why would you even take a reminder sheet? Like, it's a cheat sheet. It's called a cheat sheet for a reason. I've seen some of that stuff, and you've handled it well, my man. Like, you have, and you keep grinding, and so massive respect. You actually do something, by the way. I just talk on a microphone.
Hey, that's valuable too. And actually, so the last note I want to say is that, yeah, I've gotten criticism and stuff like you talked about, but my number one thing when it comes to stuff like this is I try to approach everything with an attitude of relentless positivity. And if someone throws toxic, stupid shit at you on Reddit or Twitter or whatever, the easiest way to disarm them and make them look silly is to respond nicely and with empathy and say, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was an issue. and help them and solve the problem. And in absolute worst case scenario, they look like a fool, you look great. And best case scenario, they begin to relate to you and they help you and they can become valuable people in your life. And that is a life lesson that I would like to go out on.
Boom. All right.